with, did you? Boy, I got this show off to a good start. How about we start the whole show over again? You want to do that? Let's try it one more time. Well, hello everyone, it's Jeff from Mid-Atlantic Craps over here on the Casino Gaming TV Network with my sidekick, Dylan from Skill and Luck. John, I will edit that part out tomorrow morning. Nobody will ever know the difference that the show got off to a rocky start. But Dylan, how are you doing tonight? Are you excited about tonight's show?
Oh, I am super excited. This is great. Can't wait for this one.
Yep, it's a good.
This is episode 4, and we're kicking down the door. So
yep,
can't
Episode 4, season 2. We're so many shows into this. He's a return guest with us. He's been on the show before. It's Jacob from Wager Me This. We'll get to this, but I want to put something out here in the chat real quick that I want to give just a shout out here to Duracell for doing this, and I'm going to go ahead and put this out here. I'm going to give a moment of silence, and you guys will understand if you're a viewer over at Big AZ's channel. You'll understand what this means. So let me go ahead and get this out here with Dylan. Give us like 10 seconds. All right, guys, let's go. In memory of Joe the Coder, who passed away unexpectedly here recently. He's a big-time Big AZ supporter. He plays on Big AZ, and he's well missed. I know that we raised some money over here on Mid-Atlantic Craps. John, you raised some money with Pro Craps, and the whole idea about this community is just awesome. So first of all, let me go to John at Pro Craps, and then we'll introduce our guest tonight. There's Jacob with us. John, how you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing good. I just got off work. I worked a full day today, so I got off work about 15 minutes ago and poured myself some brown water, and I'm ready to play with y'all, and I'm ready here to take notes from old Jacob. I love your series, by the way. I can't wait to hear it. Yeah.
Well, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Jacob from Wager Me This. Jacob, welcome back to the show. I think you know everybody. You know John from Pro Craps. That's Dylan above you, and that's me this way. Whichever way it goes, it's always stage left, stage right. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm great.
Are you ready to field some questions and talk about some craps? Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear everybody else okay?
I can.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome back to the show. I asked you to come on earlier in the week, and I told you that the series of videos that you put out this week with the $25 buy-in, and a lot of things that you said, and a couple of them really ring true. I know you talk about short stack, you talk about the amount of the proper stack, and those kind of things. So that's kind of what that drew my attention back to your video. As you know, I'm a subscriber and a member of your channel. Been a member for a couple years now. Don't know if it's underneath Mid-Atlantic Craps or it's underneath my real name, but it's one or the other. I am a subscriber of yours, and I thoroughly enjoy your content. And I do have to say, as well as probably other people out here in the audience, that when you take a little bit of a break there, we miss your videos. Drastically, we really do miss your videos. So the people that are in chat, if you want to join us in Zoom, I'm going to head over there and start letting you guys in on the Zoom side of it. We've got Ed from Roll to Win, Chris from Dice Degen, and Nemo from Hyperpress Nemo's channel that's on here. We'd like to see some just regular viewers come on. And if you have a question for Jacob or anybody on the panel, please put it in a capital Q or maybe capital letters WMT for Wager Me This or Jacob or something along those lines. He's going to be here with us for a little while. Let me go ahead and bring in that panel from the Zoom and get their audio up and happening. And let's see here. Chris, how you doing, my friend, tonight?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Always a pleasure to be here and looking forward to this great panel.
I'm happy to always have you back. And there's my good friend, Ed. Ed, wonderful show last night, I have to admit.
Oh, we had a good time last night.
Yeah. And your brown water of choice today?
I'm still on the Clyde Mays Alabama whiskey right now.
Wow.
Clyde Mays.
I know in the green room, Chris held up, I think it was a bottle of scotch, and I think Jacob immediately recognized it. I'm not a connoisseur of that, but you look like you knew what he was holding up at one point there, Jacob. Is that true?
I used to collect whiskey.
Oh, there's something we just learned. Something that we really just learned today. So let's go ahead and get right into the show. I'm looking at the chats come through. I'm trying to make sure that I haven't missed any questions. Hopefully my guys, Chris and John, will let me know if I missed a question. I can go back and spike it and come back and ask it. But Jacob, you know, we talk about your craps experience, and it's extensive. I mean, your knowledge of the game, the way that you present yourself on your videos, the stories that you tell are just awesome. Let's go ahead and give some of the viewers, because we have some new people in the community that may not have actually heard, you know, some of your background as far as it goes to craps.
So what do you want to know?
Let's tell us about where you started, and we'll wait for some questions to come in.
Okay, so I started in two different ways. So the first way I ever learned about the game was from my grandfather, and he taught me one way to play, which was with lay bets on the 4 and 10. And I actually put the video out years and years ago. And I think it was on my first channel that I had issues with another thing up in Idaho. Anyways, I got a cease and desist later on my first channel, so I had to make a new channel. But
Wow.
So my grandfather, he actually taught me how to play the game at his own house and his own stuff, and taught me with a Monopoly board for a minute, and then he showed me a craps table. But that was years and years ago when I was a kid. And then I did a bunch of dumb shit, and I went to prison. And in prison, I learned another way to play dice, right? Like a different world of it. And it was street dice in there, but you still learn like a lot of aspects of the game. And a lot about control, not control of the dice, but control of yourself. And so you learn a lot of things there because, you know, you're playing a different level there. It may not be a different level on money, but it's a different level on safety. So, you know, you're there and you're with a bunch of guys that aren't very nice, and you're playing craps for their money. When you win,
Wow.
It's not always the safest situation.
I would imagine it wouldn't be.
But so sometimes you have to lose a little back to them.
Gotcha. So you know, you got out, you started, you learned both the home game from the family and the rough game, you know, from being where you were, and you came out and you took that knowledge, and then you hit the casino, or you hit the streets.
Well, the truth is, what happened, I got out and I wanted to be a poker player. And I was good at it. I'm good at it, but it takes hours and hours and hours to make $100 or $200. And I was just like, this is too slow. And so I go and I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to go and check out craps again and see and apply myself to that. So I started looking on YouTube, of course, kind of seeing what other people are doing. And it didn't really match up with anything that I do. So I was like, well, maybe there's a market for me to tell people about this. And that's kind of how all that started. Obviously, I started like everyone else. I watched Jeremy. And because if you click craps on YouTube, Jeremy pops up like the first 10 videos.
Right.
So obviously I learned about the YouTube aspect of it from him. You know, the one thing that is unique to Jeremy compared to everyone else is Jeremy doesn't push you in a direction. You know what I mean? So he's not like saying be dark side, be light side. He just puts out content as far as, hey, this is the game, and these are things you can do in the game. So it's unique to himself. No one else really does that. Everyone else kind of has an opinion on a side, and he really doesn't. The strongest opinion I've ever heard Jeremy give was about like the 2 hits and down is better than leaving your money up, and he's totally right.
Right.
So, and that's the strongest opinion I ever heard him give on his channel, which is great. He's kind of like the flagship of this, right? Of all the YouTube channels, he's kind of like the ship that lead the way and kind of paved the way for everyone to have viewers and all that. So it's great.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think that the first 10 might be his videos. The second time, I know probably 8 of the second 10 are probably yours that come up, or at least in my stream they are.
No.
But you're right. Jeremy's been on the channel before, the show before, and he's talked about his start, what he does. He gives advice to other YouTubers, and we all know what he does for for a living as far as the video aspect of it. And his productions are outstanding. But when it comes to what you do with your channel and the sports side, which we'll get to before you leave tonight, what is it that when you're delivering the messages and your delivery style, what is it that you hope that the viewer gets out of it? As I will say to the viewers now, we've currently got 55 watching. Guys, put a question in there. Jacob's here. He's here to answer your questions. Put a capital Q. I've seen a couple fly by that I missed. Put a capital Q in there, and we'll get back to him. So, Jacob, what do you want your viewers to get out of your videos?
Well, first thing I want to say about this is no question is off limits. I'll answer any question you want. I don't care what
There
it's
you
about.
go.
So if you guys want to ask about my past or anything, that's fine too. I've talked about it 100 other times, so it doesn't bother me. I did what I did, and I paid for it. So I've been out of prison like 10 years. So, but anyways, back to the crap stuff. One of the things is when I first started my channel and it got going, I had a lot of influx from guys like Skill and Luck, dial in there, and guys like you guys don't necessarily may not know him because he kind of quit, but like 555 Craps, Greg,
Yep.
he was one of the first person to just like hammer me with emails. And then another guy that comes in, he's kind of been away from the chats lately, but Bogies, I don't know if you guys remember Bogies.
Yeah.
Like he would hammer me with stuff. And so after all of this, I'm going to call it like putting me through the fire and what I was doing through the fire, like it held up. Like the things I'm saying hold up, right? I'm not telling anybody to go crazy and press to the ceiling or, you need to martingale these bets. I'm not telling people that stuff. I put that in my videos sometimes, and I explain, hey, if you're going to do it, you should do it this way. But most of the time in those videos, I come out and say, hey, you shouldn't do this. But if you're going to do it, you should do it this way. Because a lot of those things are losers, right? They're losers, and it's not even losers over time. It's mostly losers all the time,
Right.
So
Yeah.
and, if you start pressing every hand and press, it's likely you're going to lose. So, but anyway, so then I come out with, as that went on, I just listened to the people that were watching, and they were like, hey, because I was going to get way more refined and polished like Jeremy, because I thought that was the path. And I'm like, no, don't change what you do. Be who you are. Just come on, start into the video. Don't do all that. Because I was going to have an intro and an outro and all that. But everyone was like, don't do it. So I was like, okay. And then people started saying, they would tell me, we liked the way you talk about the game. They say, I get this, that they say it feels like I'm talking to them instead of talking at them, like we're having a conversation. And so I feel like that's one of the things I do well so I feel like when I put my message out, whatever I'm trying to get across in the video specifically, I feel like it hits home more often because I'm not just talking at them. And I think that's what happens.
Okay. I'm queuing up questions. I'm not ignoring you. It's a whole show production here with everybody on the staff here. But I mean, that's what you just said. I think is important from a YouTuber and also from a craps player. Is to be yourself. But your content that you've delivered over the years. You've even said some in recent videos over the past several months that some of the content that you put out years ago, you don't play that way anymore. But the videos are still out there, and that. They're being viewed, but from a standpoint of what you put out here recently, this particular week, you were talking about bankroll and playing at a $25 table. Now, before we get to that, my good friend Dustin has put his question in here 3 times, so I'm going to go ahead and get you to answer this question, and then we'll move on back to that story because he's put it in here 3 times. I've saw it, so let me cue this one up. This question is on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being most definitely and 5 being unimportant. How important is it to you that you win your first wager on the first roll? Roll doesn't have to be the come out roll. That's a question that he's asked a couple times, so we'll get that one out of the way. Do you understand the question, or can you see it?
Sure. I think I understand the question at least. It's not.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong, I want to, because then I can get right into the second step of what I do and try to play for free. But if I don't win the first 3 or 4 hands, if I get smacked around for the first hour I'm at the table, usually it's okay. So, because the way I play is I trust in the variance of the game. I trust that there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, and there's going to be this massive middle where the dice do the same thing for 50 shooters out of 70, right? Where they go 4 or 5 rolls and then the next shooter goes. And then there's 2 or 3 guys that go forever, 2 or 3 guys that PSO, and then slowly in the middle. But the vast majority will be 5 to 8 rolls. And I trust that, and I believe that because I've repeatedly seen it hundreds and hundreds of times at the table. So I gear the way I play to win in that window. I really don't care about the long roll. I really don't care about the PSOs. What I care about is that window that has the 4 and 5 rolls, that I make sure I win there. If I win $5, it's fine with me, as long as I stay profitable per shooter. Now, if I miss on a shooter, so to speak, that's fine too. I don't martingale and I don't bump up until I get to a certain point in my bankroll. Then I feel like I need to attack as opposed to just play my strategy. But to answer his questions, the first bet, the first wager, the don't, whatever it is, if I lose, it's okay. The next one I might win, or the next 5 I might win, or I might lose 5 and then win 5. I mean, John talks about it a lot. He talks about the 6, 7, 8, and that's what I play dominantly. I don't really deviate. He talks about it. I'm talking about John from ProCraps here. He says that it'll sit there and it'll sit there and it'll sit there until the time it just wins, and it'll fight its way through. Sometimes it'll hang out down a little bit, but then it'll get its run. And what it does, it allows you to be there for them. It allows you to hang around until you can get profitable. Now, it's up to you to leave once you get profitable. That's the trick. It's leaving.
That's a very good point.
The trick isn't getting into the profit. The trick is leaving when you have it. So,
all right.
That's almost so. Here's a question for you guys. You're at the table and you're playing, and your strategy's hanging around even, right? You're not going up, you're not going down, and you're there an hour, right? And then you go on a run of 3 or 4 shooters where you make $100 per shooter. Now you're up $300 or $400. Are you leaving? Or are you hot? And your mind goes, "Oh, I'm hot. It's time to go. We're going to get it." Not me. I'm gone. I'm done.
Depends on what my net is. If I was down a couple hundred and then I won 300, no. If I'm up 300 and that was my goal, then I'm out.
I'm out. I'm eating a steak. Yeah. By the time them dice get back to you, I'm already eating a steak.
All right. So Jacob's asked a question of the panel that's here, and guys, anybody else that wants to join in on the Zoom call today, it's in the description below. Please take a look at that. Come on in. I'll let you in. You can talk to Jacob one-on-one or any of the panel. We've got Ed from Roll to Win, Nemo, Chris Dice-Dejan, John Dial, and myself, and Wager here. We're here to help you guys and answer any questions. We're here for the next couple hours. I'm not sure how long Jacob's going to be here, but come on, this is your time to ask the questions. I've queued up a couple questions here and that we'll get to, but let's go ahead and take Jacob's question to us. Jacob, when I'm playing in my backyard, I do exactly what you do. I'm 25 minutes away from one casino, 55 from another. If I hit what I call my win goal, where I'm happy with it, typically, it's a 20%-ish off the buy-in, and I'm out and gone. But when I travel to Vegas or Atlantic City or wherever, I have a tendency to leave, especially if I'm playing with some people that I know that I think I know your opinion on dice influencing, but if you're at the table and you're on a long roll, you got to enjoy that. But I've got to play with some people here recently that I have confidence in their shooting. But just like you, if you go to the table and it's all random people, I play a lot of 6, 7, 8 when I first get to the table. It's your style, and that's the way I go. So let me ask the panel here: who else wants to answer Jacob's question? Dylan?
I would probably break it in half and continue on. I'm if I'm there and I'm up, then I'm going to micromanage that money, but I'm going to stay there to see exactly when the table trend turns, and then I can switch either to a dark strategy or quit and get out then. But I don't want to leave right when it's hot. But so I would break whatever my win goal is in half, and then play with that, and then have that designated for the half that I've already won plus the bankroll that I have. That's not going to be touched anymore. So that's exactly how I would approach that. Now, and if it loses, then I'm gone. The other half that I've designated that I can the excess. Then if that's gone, then I'm happy with what has transpired, and I'm out of there. So I don't have a problem leaving. I just want to make sure that I can ride that hot wave or whatever that trend is, either cold or hot or whatever that trend is, whatever that dominant trend is, until that dominant trend changes, and I see that, then I'll make a decision. If that makes sense.
All right, it does. Let's head to Chris Dice Dejan. That's his channel name, Jacob. Chris Dice Dejan. He's a Philadelphia guy. Yep, he's right around the corner from me. We've played together quite often here this past year. Chris, what do you think of the win goal, or what Jacob said, I should say?
I have a similar answer to you, Jeff. So when I'm at my local, I usually go during a lunch break or at night or something. I'm in and out, hit my win goal, I leave. But my local's 10 minutes away, so I could go really whenever I want. When I'm playing with a group, that changes a little bit. I try to lock up most of it, and then I'll continue to play because, we're playing with a group. But if I lose it, I have no problem coloring up, putting it in the pocket, and just hanging out with people and having a good time. So more often than not, I would say hit the win goal and I'm out. But like I said, if I'm playing with a group of people, sometimes the win goal goes out the window. But I never let my bankroll go back below where I started. So that's one thing that I do if I am playing with a group of people.
All right. So I'm saving Ed for last because I think we're going to hear something a little differently. But I'm going to be surprised. And Jacob, I think you probably know. Yeah, you know Ed's reputation. So let's go on over to Nemo. Nemo, what do you think about the win goal?
I have posted my new bankroll management system, I think, last week. I've always tried to find ways to where I'm gonna try to hit profit, take my bankroll, not even try to touch it, and just try to go on a positive ride. Just like Skill said, if I'm gonna try to divvy up my money from the profits, I'm gonna either do if I'm gonna be in profit, walk. 2, divvy it between 10 shooters, and 3, 50-50, or try to take the whole entire profit and just try to shoot for the moon with it. But whatever I do, I try not to touch my main bankroll. That's it.
Okay.
If anything happens to the bankroll, I try to do the best I can not to even touch it.
All right. Ed, I've played with you. I've not had the pleasure of being at a casino with Jacob yet. I've played with Chris. I've played with John. I haven't played with Skill yet. But what is your to answer Jacob's question? What is your opinion of where do you stop and where do you walk?
Not a fair question.
I knew you were going to say something like that.
That's just not a fair question. I think he said something along the lines, though, if you were down and then all of a sudden you were back up $300, do you walk? that's a good time to walk. If I'm up 300 and I hadn't really been down, I ain't walking. I I will section off a rail. I will section off my rail to determine where I'm at with my bankroll at all times. Once it gets where I want it, let's just say easy number. All right, so I'm up. My bankroll was 1,000, and now I've got over 1,000. Well, then I'm going to section off my 1,000. Now I'm playing with winnings. All right, my goal, if you want to call it that, or my strategy would be, I don't really have a strategy, I have a game plan. So if I'm into the game pretty good and I'm up over my $1,000 buy-in, then my next goal is I want another $1,000 rack right behind that one, if I can get it. If I get that, then I slide that up to the other one, I section it off, and my next goal is, can I get 3? So it's different for me, but walking, I'll walk with a loss a lot of times way sooner than I walk when just because I'm up. That's if something's bad on the table that I don't like, whether it's the people or the dealers or just the darn dice, I'll walk with a loss and just go win it back somewhere else. I don't hang out there on a loser. And it's different. I don't have a casino 10 minutes from my work. I don't have a casino down the street. I don't think our guest there does either. Even though he and I both play in Tunica, we've never run into each other that I know of. Of course, he likes one casino. I like a different one. He likes the bouncy tables. I don't. He likes Gold Strike, which I haven't played there since they've been bought out. But anyway, I got, how I play. I don't go in with a strategy. I go in with I go in with a game plan, I guess. It's a different thing.
Yep. Jacob, you got anything to say to what Ed said?
I know. I love what Ed said. There is, and that's the great thing about the game, is there's a lot of ways to play. See, because like what I'm going to touch on something Ed said. Ed said that he walks with a loss. He does that, right? I never do that. Never. When I take my bankroll to the table, it's there. Now, don't get me wrong. I might leave that table if I don't like it, but I'm going right to play. When I'm playing, that bankroll I'm willing to lose it. So if I put 2,500 on the table, I'm willing to lose it. I'm willing to take that and put that against making 250. You see what I'm saying? Or making 350. I'm willing to take it no matter what happens. So that's why I leave so early when I'm up. I don't give myself a chance to lose it back. But that's just different style of play. It's a different way to think about the game. And I can be 100% absolutely sure that the way Ed plays, I know many people that win lots of money playing that way.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Doesn't that come down to, hold on, doesn't that come down to how often you go and how much you go with, right? I think we've had this discussion so many times, and it's like, for me, when I drive 20 minutes or a half hour to my local, I can go 4 days a week and win $100, $200 and be happy with it, right? It's easy to walk when you're 5 seconds away, and who cares, right?
That's true.
And you can turn $1,000 into $100. If I'm driving 2.5 to 5 hours to a casino, I get the whole I'm not leaving with $100 argument that a lot of people will throw at you. When I go to Vegas, I play different too. I'm definitely more home run style when I'm out there. I still play careful early, but if I get up, I'm swinging. When I'm local, I don't necessarily swing like that, but when I'm gone, I definitely do. I'll be swinging next week when I'm in AC.
So I guess I have to touch on that too. So when I play with people, like when I go and play with people, I make bets I never make. I'll play money on hard ways, and because I'm trying to have fun with the people I'm with. When I go just by myself to make money, I play so strictly. I don't deviate from nothing.
100%. 100%. I think I saw you win. I think I might have thrown the dice when you won a $50 hard 4 or something. That was
Hard
pretty.
four,
At
yeah, that
Binion.
was crazy.
Well,
It
I
was
think you
back to
dropped
back.
$100 on the waitress. That was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
It was a $25 hard four that turned into a $50 hard four and both won.
Yeah.
And then I went
Yeah,
and
that
bet
was
on the
pretty awesome.
Razorbacks and lost.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that.
All right. On this topic here, we have a couple questions coming in, and I'm gonna back up at the questions. Brian from Holy Roller, I'm gonna come back to your question in a bit. I think that's a good closing question. We'll get to when it's time for Jacob when he tells us that he's had enough of us and he's ready to go. But I'm gonna put a question up here from Dr. S. Who is a YouTuber as well, Jacob, and he says, please rank in the importance of the following: bankroll strategy, win goal, stop loss, discipline, out of sight, out of mind, and feel free to add any others that you may want to add. I'll leave that up there in case you can see that. We'll leave that one up there for just for a few seconds. So the importance of each one of those, or maybe even prioritize them.
Okay, so if anyone ever read anything on my craps channel, on my craps website, I had a list of 10 things that I ranked as importance, and discipline is number one. It's absolutely number one in any type of gambling. If you are not disciplined, keep your money. Because if you're going there and you're just throwing money at stuff and you don't have any discipline, if you don't have any way to control your gambling with, using common sense and using a logical approach to it and discipline, then you shouldn't gamble. You just shouldn't, because you can save a lot more money that way. Now, in my opinion, the second biggest thing, if we're just talking about craps, if you've got the discipline, the second biggest thing is the bankroll, because there's tons of strategies that win. You can win with lots of strategies. So strategy is kind of the least important out of it all, in my opinion. But you got to have a bankroll. Craps is an expensive game to play, right? If you're going to a felt table, you're looking at probably at least a $15 minimum. You might find a 10, and some of you lucky guys can find $5 tables, but I don't ever see that. I don't ever see less than a $15 table anymore. So $15 per bet you make on the table, obviously not the prop box, but anything that you should be playing, it's $15. So if you're only playing with $300, you're putting yourself at such a disadvantage by not having the correct amount of money to play the game. And so I feel like discipline's one, and having the correct bankroll is number two. Now, the rest of that stuff, strategy and this and that, you need to do what you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable playing the dark side, and I know a lot of people aren't, they have a thing about it because it's promoted as like the wrong way to play, the right side and the wrong side. And if you're not comfortable with it, don't play it. Don't play it. If you're not comfortable with it, play a different way. Just figure out how to win that way, right? Every strategy out there can win. I've seen them all win. I've seen guys just randomly put money in the field and win lots of money. So whatever your strategy is fine. Now, as far as stop loss goes, stop loss, in my opinion, is attached to strategy, right? So stop loss and strategy are kind of attached to each other. If you're a stop loss guy, I'm not a stop loss guy, so I don't care about that. But I know a lot of people do, and so to me, if you're a stop loss guy, you're not playing with the right amount of money. And I know people don't want to hear that, but if you take $1,000 to table and you get down 300 and you run away, then you really only took $300 to the table. You see what I'm saying? Right. If you're not going to let that go to zero and have the balls to go to zero on that $1,000, then whatever you leave at is actually what you brought. Because if that's the stop loss thing, I don't play that way. Like I said, what I put down is I'm going for it. I'm trying to get my profit goal. Now, I'm not trying to make $10,000. I'm trying to make between 10 and 20%. That's it. And after that, and I get in that range, I leave. But again, you guys brought up about, nearness to casinos. I'm not far away from casinos. So, but And then as far as a profit goal, you got to set your own profit goal. But like anything else, right? If you guys put money in the stock market and you go to a stock broker or of any kind of mutual fund, they're not telling you you're doubling your money. They're going to be like, hey, you're probably going to make about 8%. You know, that's what they're telling you. So think about that. If you're going to a craps table to double your money, you're putting money in the stock market only making 8%. So you got to understand, if you're using it as some kind of money making tool, you need to knock that profit goal way down. You need to make it manageable, something achievable. You're not going to double your money every time you go to the casino.
If your stockbroker's making you 8-9%, you're going to be, he's going to be the godfather of your children. If that guy's making you 8-9% a year, that just doesn't fucking happen. I mean, that's just, you know what I mean? You got to work yourself at the table. You make it 8%, 10%, you're doing work. I mean, you got to celebrate how hard that is to make 10%. It's not easy.
But that's what I'm getting at, is that so many people are like, I'm going to double up. I'm like, oh, good luck.
Yeah,
but there's
thanks.
John, I got to play devil's advocate there with the stockbroker. 8% is not, that's not a great return, and they're going to push you into bonds and different things as well, and it's not going to. If you're not exclusive to the stock market, you don't know what you're doing.
It depends how old you are.
Can be.
So here's a. So Skill, it depends on how old you are. Like I said, for Chris Degen, they're telling him, the stockbrokers, get into, some percentage of aggressive stuff. Mostly it's going to be passive stuff, right? Give him an 8%, 7% win for the next 40 years. He's fine. Me at 54, they're telling me put it all on black. Like they're giving me like be aggressive as hell because you got 4 years left, right? So it's a whole different ball game. But you're right. The brokers though, honestly, there's not a lot of money in that. I mean, it's a steady Eddie kind of a thing. It's not a home run.
Right. So you got to choose wisely, in that stuff. And so that stock market analogy just, it's not really fair because, there's moderate, aggressive, and international. There's all kind of everything. So it's just completely, you can go completely insane if you want, and that's your risk tolerance. So, and there are some hedge fund, or there's some funds that go crazy like that as well. So you got to choose wisely of what you can do, and that thing can bring a return of 15 or 20% or whatever, if you gear yourself that way. But they're not going to steer. A normal broker's not going to steer you that way. Normally. So. Sorry about that.
No, I'm looking at the comments come through, and people actually like this debate that's going on here. I've seen some positive comments, and I've seen both sides of the aisle here. So Jacob,
let me say something first about the stock market stuff. I'm not a stock market guru. I use that analogy because people will dump money into the stock market acting like it's not gambling. And that's why I use that analogy.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They'll put the word investing on it, and they'll put the word on what I do as gambling.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ed's probably going to say something. There you go.
Every dollar you put on a table is an investment in that roll. Every dollar. That's an investment in that roll. So what is your return on that roll? That's what you need to look at. I'm not going to talk to you about the stock market stuff because I can't. Because I'm a stockbroker. But every dollar you put on the table is an investment. And you're making an investment and you're trying to get a return on that investment. Are you over investing? Are you overweight? You hear that terminology in the market. Are you overweight on a number? Are you overweight on a strategy? Are you going 96 across and only 2 numbers are hitting? Are you going 640 across and they're PSOing? That's the thing you've got to figure out, because every dollar you put on that table is an investment.
I love that.
Anybody else have comments in regards to that?
That's
Anybody?
why Ed's rich.
All right, let's welcome Alfredo from Texas Crap Shooters. He's just joined us. Alfredo, hit your audio button, and you want to jump in on this conversation. I don't know how much of it you caught, but I could go back and put the question back up initially.
I was listening. I don't have like a ton of time, so I might have to dip out after a little while. But no, I thought it was a really, really good conversation. If you take money, you take money to make sure that you're trying to get to your win goal. Now, some people might have a win goal of doubling their money. That is, I think, insane to think of. But if you can go in and win 50% or double your money, if you do, for the buy-in that you have at the time, maybe not the bankroll that you're taking for the entire trip, I think it's important that you go and lock it away. I say it all the time. Go hit the cage, because you leave it on your rail, you'll find a way to get it onto the table. And if you're not hitting the cage multiple times in a day, if you're staying at a table, you're going to give it back. And you have to hit these resets in time, because even playing on a table fatigued, not eating lunch, not having sleep, flying across the country into a casino late at night and then thinking that you're just going to throw well, you're probably dehydrated, you're fatigued. All these things play a part. You need to make sure that you're at the top of your game in the conditions. And even sometimes that doesn't mean shit. I've been at a table with a bunch of great shooters, golden arm winners. You can see every single person across the table, not one person got over four tosses. And probably more money lost in that one turn around the table than any other time that you've seen from the same people that were betting, because everyone trusted everyone. However, it just wasn't happening. So
been there, done that. Yeah. All right. Any other comment in regards to, I guess, this back and forth to the question? I don't know that we got to all parts of the question, but I would like to keep the show going. Jacob, do you have anything else on that topic? I will put this up here. Brian from Hawaii Crap Shooters, I put it up here once. He said, Hawaiians have no stop win goal. We go for as much as we can win till it's time to go back to Hawaii. Jokingly said. I mean, that's I don't know if Brian's his sarcasm or his seriousness there, but I've been in Vegas a couple times with some of those, and they are serious. They are. They are. So I just thought I'd put that up there for Brian, who popped in here for us. Brian's been a guest on the show in the past as well. So did you have any other comments, Jacob, on that topic, or do I need to put it back up?
No, I mean, unless there was more to the question that I need to answer. No, I mean, I love it because I just, like, you guys all have very, very valid opinions and very valid facts that you guys speak. And I say this a lot. There's a lot of ways to win at this game. It's not specific to one thing. The one thing I can tell you this, and this is my opinion, and I'll stand on this. The one thing I can say is the way that you shouldn't look at the game is from house edge. And I've preached that for a couple of years now. If you're going into it developing what you're going to do off of house edge, you're not understanding what house edge is. So that's been the rhetoric around craps for 100 years. You need to develop your strategy around house edge. All those strategies are over time losers. So, I mean, I don't, what I'm getting at is that's not the way to look at the game, in my opinion. If you want to be a craps player, figure out what works for you, what you do best, and do it. Don't worry about the house edges.
Yep, I would totally agree with that.
I'm sure that's the way that you worded that, because I know Ed, I played with him and I've talked to him for a year now. He doesn't specifically use a strategy. He plays what's happening on the table and relies on the shooters. And I had an opportunity in Biloxi a couple of weeks to play with him. And on the shooters we didn't know. I might have been playing the 6, 7, 8, but I saw Ed come out a lot of times just on the 6 and 8 or on the don't, and waited till the table got back around. So as far as the aspect of what works for you or what's happening, everybody's different. And I'm looking at some of the comments come in with, the various opinions about what we're talking about. And I think some of them are very good. But from a standpoint of strategy, Jacob, do you primarily stick with your 6, 7, 8? I mean, do you now lately compared to say your anything but 10s or 4s from years ago that you said that you don't particularly play anymore?
Well, okay, so one thing I want to say about the anything but 10, the anything but 10 is 6, 7, 8. You're still just trading this 10 for the 7, and then you're playing the box numbers behind. It's still the same strategy. It's just the mechanism behind it's different, right? The way you're taking the 7 is different. That's all it is. It's still the same play to me. If you were rolling the don't, and every time you rolled the don't, you either got a 4 or a 10, you'd be pretty happy, right? If every time the don't came out as a point on a 4 or a 10, it'd be a good day because you're 1-to-1 with 2-to-1 odds. You're 2-to-1 favorite at 1-to-1. It'd be lovely. So anything with 10 or 4 or whatever, it just bypasses that part. Now you don't get 1-to-1, obviously, but it's still the same play in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to a question here that let me scroll back to get to it. Give me 1 second here. We already answered this question, I believe, from Joe Ramus about the distance from the casino being 15 minutes, 2.5 hours. So, Joe, if you got to the show late, we did answer that question. So I'm gonna move on. Here's a real quick question from Tito that we're just gonna hit on real quick. I guess he's got your opinion of which do you find more profitable, hard ways or horns. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, Jacob, but let me see if I'm right or not.
I'm a horn guy.
Okay.
But when I play the horn, I play the horn as a progression, or not progression. Progression is the wrong term. I parlay it. I parlay the horn. So if I'm going to put money on the horn, I'm willing to stack that money on the horn, because the first horn win is useless. The second and third are where all the money's at. All right. Now, after the third one, I'll leave money on it, but I'm collecting it. I'm getting all that profit, because if you can happen to get 3 horn numbers in a row and you had money on the first one, it's going to be a nice payday, no matter which one's hit, right? Even if you're at $4 on the horn, because the next one, you're essentially multiplying by 4 each time. So
okay.
If you're going to do it all the way.
Well, let's move in from the horn because I typically play a craps come out bet, and if it hits, I do exactly what you said. You could take a $5 craps to up to $3.50 or $4.25, depending upon what it hits, and back to back to back hits. Does it happen often? No, but when it happens, it's really sweet on a $5 bet. I mean, that's really it. So let's segue into this question that John from the panel put in the chat here. Let's ask Jacob. Let's talk about hedging the come out from the don't side.
Roll up.
Two things I'm going to say about hedging the come out. First of all, I don't really do it. If you ever see me play live, I don't hedge the come out. If I'm coming out and I have a horn bet, I'm playing the horn. I'm not hedging. I'm putting that bet on there because I want the horn to hit. It's not a hedge.
Boy. I didn't know you did that, but that's great. I love hearing that.
If I roll a 7, okay. I mean, that's fine. It happens. You're gonna have bad come outs. But if I happen to roll a 2 or a 3, right? Cool. I made extra money in that case. But that's 2 separate games to me. I'm playing the horn looking for a horn parlay. And I'm playing the don't, playing my normal game. They're separate to me. I don't hedge it. If I was going to hedge my don't bet, I would use a lay bet, because I'm controlling then where my hedge is, right? I'm not reliant on something. I'm controlling, okay, I can lay this 10. There's only 3 ways to roll it. I only have to lay it for 1 roll probably. But I don't hedge, guys. I don't. The only hedge I make on anything is on the ATS, or in the same sense on the repeater bet. I don't hedge nothing.
Okay. John, did you get your question answered?
Yeah, I just thought it'd be a fun because I know skill likes to hedge the come out. I don't like hedging the come out. I like a clean don't, and I love Jacob's play on the because now that I love to play the horns to win, not to hedge. So to me, that double dipping is I love hearing you say that. It's fantastic. I know skill likes to hedge the come out, and you got that probability advantage for the one roll there. So I think it's just an interesting conversation because everybody plays that differently, and it's absolutely a risk tolerance or risk appetite kind of a question, I think, and I think, yeah, thanks for answering that, Jacob. That's awesome.
Well,
So one of the things I've been saying about this is Ed would have a good thoughts on this because he's going to understand these numbers really well. If you have a $10 or a $15 bet hedged on every don't, then over time, that calculation is going to eat into that don't. So if you're going $100 don't with, let's say, a $10 some kind of craps bet, and it keeps going and goes on and goes on, that $10, that 10% that you're putting against that every time eventually eats up some of that. So if you were playing 100 and then going like 88 or whatever behind it, you probably need to come down to like 66 because I know
it's not worth it.
It looks great when it wins, but over like the stretch of a session or multiple sessions, that 10%'s ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's something that I find interesting coming from Vince. He says professional level players never hedge. Ed, you got any comments on what Jacob said in regards to the math there?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's 100% right. And all the hedge players are going to hate me, but when I say this, but it's the way I feel. If you're hedging, you're playing not to win.
Right.
I know that you think you're playing not to lose, but you're actually playing not to win. In my opinion.
All right, Jacob, you seem to agree with that.
Well, and I do understand the hedge. I do, because what happens is when you play the don't, because the don't is usually what gets hedged, right? When you play the don't, people get scared, right? Because generally, if you're gonna play a don't, you should play it bigger. You're trying to get that 1-to-1 bet in the advantage.
Put that quarter on that don't pass and let it run. If they throw a 7, then you got to decide in your mind, okay, am I going to put another quarter out there? Am I going to put a 50 out there? If they knock you off twice, absolutely. Put your hands in your pocket and don't make another bet until you never let one shooter pick you off but twice. Period.
I 100% agree.
Whether you did a 25 and a 25 or whether you did a 25 and a 50. God almighty, I don't know about you, but I've been knocked off more 4s and 10s lays since COVID than I mean, it's crazy. That's the worst. That's the worst bet you can make almost these days is laying a 4 and 10s.
Yep.
I don't do the whole let a shooter beat me twice bullshit. I just play. Like, to me, like I'm with Jacob what he said earlier, variance is going to happen, right? You're going to get these pockets where the guy knocks you off 4 times, and then he's going to rattle off. Then you're going to see 8 don't winners in a row. I'm just going to let it go. Like, I'm going to trust variance to get me through it, and if I lose 4, 5, 6 don'ts in a row, it's going to be okay.
You'd be willing to lose your entire stack on one player.
Yep.
But I won't. But I'm not putting that much out there. I'm not putting out 10% of my stack on one player. Right, that's the difference.
Well, let's say one player goes on and like yesterday, I hit 8 points and I have 5 come out winners in addition to that, and you're on the don't. I mean, you're obliterated. There's no 2 ifs and buts about it.
Well, if I'm laddering, If I'm laddering, I'm obliterated, but I'm not laddering. I don't ladder my don't pass. Right, that's the thing I don't do. So, for me. Fine, 6, 7, 8 don'ts in a row, $25. Okay, a couple $100. Not the end of the world. I'm going to get it back. I'm going to get it back on the roll, and I think that's where the 6, 7, 8 dominates, right? And the way that I play my box numbers dominates that too on a good roll. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to chase the loss with a bunch of parlays or not with a bunch of ladders and martingales. I just don't do that. So I don't buy into that. I buy into table variance. That's what I do. So that's just the way that I play it.
But you're betting
I feel
against
like
the variance right there, bud.
Well, but again, it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me.
I mean, you're betting against the variance. You got to have it.
But it always
talk about
back.
having a loss limit. All right, look, everybody talks about having a loss limit. Y'all talk about having win limits. You don't ever hear none of those words come out of my mouth except I'm going to walk away, and I'll walk away with a loss if I want to. But
yeah,
I ain't going to sit there and let some guy hammer me on a don't pass time after time after time. He's going to throw a 7, 11, 11, 7, and then I'm out $100. Then what am I going to do? Right? Now I got to figure out, I got to be creative to come back and try to figure out how to break even. Am I going to try to break even on that shooter, or am I going to try to break even on the next guy? You know, I got to bring it back up. So I can wait one roll, see what he does, then I can lay the point, or I could lay a 5 and a 9 or something like that. You know, the best thing about the don't pass and the DC, especially the DCs, you can only lose one of them at a time, but you win every one of them in one shot. That's the beauty of it, right? So you got to figure out how you want to put that out there to recoup that. You know, if I got 3 DCs out there, I can only lose one, but I can win every one of them. Now, personally,
and that's the point of variance.
I never put.
I would.
Go ahead, John.
Don't fear that. Don't fear that. Like I said, if I get burned on the don't 4 or 5 times, so freaking what? Come to the DC, lay odds on everything. That guy's throwing 7s. I'll win it all back. I'm not concerned at all. Like I've come to this point in my career where I just don't care. I know what's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. I know that shit's going to happen, and I just But eventually, it will work itself out, and that's why I've stopped trying to count 7s and worry about what's due and all that bullshit. It's going to come when it's going to come, and I just don't let it worry me. Variance will always work in your favor if you're there when it happens. That's just.
I think what you're saying, it makes sense, but here's the deal: is not everyone understands the game like you, right? They may not understand to make the transition to the DC instead of laying this big dome. And because they fail to do that, they end up losing their ass because they think that this is the right strategy. I've seen this on YouTube. More people are not going to hit their point than anything else, and then they get hit by someone that actually knows the game and comes in and gets on that hot streak and hits point after point after point.
I've experienced it. I've experienced it.
Well, and the thing is, like, you know, there are guys like you that will throw different sets, come out different, everything come out, right? There's a difference there where the random thrower, who you figure is throwing a bunch of 7s now, if I was going to go 25 don't and 66 inside or whatever I was going to do, if I get whacked on the don't, I'm coming DC, right? That's the difference, right? On that random thrower, you're different because you're going to destroy the 7s on the come out like you do, but then you're going to go off on a better roll once the point's on. That's your pattern, right? And knowing that, I think is a different question. And I think I put that in chat too. It's a whole different way of seeing how the shooters play. But yeah, I'm not gonna run from it. I used to run from it. I used to be scared, start laying shit, trying to get my don't pass out. And by the time you do all that, you go, where'd my money go? Should have just stayed where I was. And that's, I think, what comes over the course of years. It's like, just keep it clean. Keep your bets clean.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in here, and
Skill's gonna yell at me now.
No, I'm not gonna yell at you. I'm just going to try to explain my 2 cents and my point of view, because it's different. You know, Jacob started with saying, you know, if you lay a bet, if you have your don't, and you put, you know, there's different ways to have that protection. And it'll eat away, and I understand that. But that's why I prefer a lay bet over the any 7 bet, because that any 7 bet eats at your don't for the amount that the don't is valued at. That goes down. And also another point that I'm going to agree with Jacob on, and is that I had it here and it just went. But anyway, the reason, I don't stay. I'll lay the 9 to protect my don't pass, but I'm not laying it for a long time. I'm not laying it for an extended time. That's me, and I want to establish. I want the point to get established. Then I'm bringing that lay down, because then the don't, it's strong. I don't need that extra dark side that can get whacked. I don't want two different things that can get whacked. I want to narrow it back down to 1, and for to keeping my 7 strong on the, and having that don't pass. That's what the don't pass is designed for. So I'm bringing that lay 9 back to me as soon as possible, because I know that there's a possibility of it getting whacked, and I've got more money out there. My lay 9 is always double of whatever the don't pass is. That way the 7 is guaranteed to make money because of the vig. So I'm so when that 7 is coming, the don't pass falls, but that lay is going to pay, and I'm going to make money even though that I've lost the don't pass. And that's what the whole thing is designed for. But it's only designed to get and establish a point. Once that point's established, that lay's coming down. And that means that I don't lose. I don't lose value. I don't lose value. My don't pass. Hold on, John. My don't pass has not been devalued when I take that line. When I take my lay down. But if I'm doing a 7, an any 7, my don't pass has devalued. And that's the whole. That's the whole crux of the situation.
No, that's 100% true. The lay in the set or playing the NE7 is stupid. That's just giving money away. The lay in the back wall, you're giving money away. Laying the 9 or whatever you're going to lay is fine, but it takes 2 wins to get that back. When you get whacked on that, and you're going to get whacked. You're going to lose that bet 4 times out of 36. You're going to lose your don't pass 6 times out of 36. Just talking about the 7, they will equal out over time. But you're losing vig up there. Don't forget that. So, and it takes 2 wins to get it back, or odds. But 2 units of wins to get back that lay. That's a tough recovery, and that's what I've discovered over the years is winning back my lay losses is really hard. And in a given session, may not be that big of a deal, but over the course of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sessions in a row, those lays add up too much, and that's why I've stopped. I used to worry about it, but I've stopped since. Yeah.
I think the passion here of which side of the aisle you're sitting in the church certainly shines through here. Duracell called the time clock. So we have Jacob here. Jacob, do you have any final words on this topic here before we move on to? There's a couple more questions here for you.
No, that was good. That was a good back and forth. That was really good. A lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, well, that's what happens on the show sometimes. We get varying opinions, and I think that's what makes this show, Craps Chat, so successful, is that typically we don't get an attitude with one another, but you can clearly see that somebody picks a side, So that is really good. I'm going to put another question up here, guys. We can come back to, as a recap before Jacob gets out of here. Vince actually had a question here. He's got several of them. This was for you. Do you prefer to hide the greens above the bankroll or play with the winnings and hide the bankroll? Vince probably came in a little too late. We talked a little bit about how we played. Do you understand the question there, Jacob? And can you answer that?
I think I understand the question because I understand Vince. Because I know not know him personally, but
you understand.
But I've been around his channel for a long time.
All right.
So for me, if I'm winning and I'm in my profit goal, so I don't leave during a shooter, but I will adjust. So if I hit my profit goal, scoop right in the pocket. I'm only playing with what I have left. If it's on the table, whatever. So as far as picking a certain set of chips or anything like that, no, my whole thing is based on the 10 to 20%. When I hit into that window on that shooter, that goes away. I don't play with it no more because I want to win and I don't want to lose. And so that's what it boils down to is I would rather leave the casino winning $1 than leave the casino losing. If I can do that every time, and it's not about money necessarily. It's about my feeling toward it. Like, I don't like to. Losing is depressing, right? Losing is terrible. It sucks. It doesn't feel good. If I leave and I had a time there, I was playing, and I leave, and I leave with money from the casino, and I know it cost me $30 to drive there or something, but I don't care. I don't think about it like that. I beat the casino. That's where my mind goes. I'm like, yeah, I beat you. You couldn't beat me. And so, as far as like picking, do I keep up there? Nah, it's just a profit goal percentage that I land in, and I'm good.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I when we emailed back and forth earlier in the week was I wanted you to explain your 100 times bankroll. We should have talked about this a little while ago, but can you we've got 80 according to Durso, we've got 83 people watching the show here. And can you explain why you have that 100 time bankroll theory and where you came up with that or how you use that?
Okay, so on the 100 times bankroll theory, it's basically a poker thought. If you ever watch tournament poker or anything on TV, they talk about how many big blinds they have, right? They have 100 big blinds or 25 big blinds. What that's telling you as a player, it's your longevity at the table. It's how much risk you are and what range you are in risk. If you're the table leader and you got 250 big blinds, you can take chances because the guy at the bottom has 13 big blinds. His 13 doesn't hurt you. So that's the poker part of it, right? So when you're playing at a craps table, if the minimum buy-in for any single bet, the minimum bet is $15, and you only come there with $200 or $300, you only have 10 or 12 or 15 bets, right? You're only going to be able to put money on the table that many times if you don't make money. So the way the bankroll has to be large enough to combat the variance of the game, right? So the variance of the game is essentially that pattern of 36 rolls, right? You have the 36 combinations. It should do that over time, right? 1, 2, 2 3s, 3 4s, 4 5s, so on and so forth over time. So that variance will hold true over the course of a session. And I've actually shown this before. People say, no, you need 10,000 rolls. No, bullshit. If you go through 10 shooters and you calculated all those rolls, it's going to look really close. It's going to be really close to that pyramid you see. Now, it may be one spike here or something, but it's going to be real close. And so what that tells me is that I need enough money to combat the downswing on my strategy. That's the downswing against my strategy, right? So if I'm playing the don't on every shooter, I need to be able to lose so many of those before I can get the other part of it, which is the upswing, which is all the winners. So I say this, and I know you were asking about this, the saying I have, and this is what I say. I say, strategy is to win, and bankroll is to cover the losses. And that's what I say, because the reality of craps is you're going to go up there, and you may not win right away. You may not win for 5 shooters, or you might go win, and you might win right away, and then lose the next 5 shooters. So you have to have that 100 times type of bankroll for your strategy to be successful. If you don't, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage to start. And you are already at a disadvantage to start because the casino has the math in their favor. So
right,
all those pieces of the puzzle are what it takes to be able to go to the casino and consistently have a chance to beat them.
Okay. All right. Before we move on to the next question, I want to welcome Craig from Old Bay Craps and see if anybody in the Zoom side has any comments about anything that we've talked about recently. I don't know the time frame that Jacob has with us tonight, so I want to give him some time to finish up here when he's ready. But we're not ready if you guys have some comment. Any comments about the 100-time bankroll? John, looked like you were steady thinking that that coding side of you was working.
Always. I'm good.
All right. Craig, Old Bay Craps, welcome. You're on the panel. Of course, you know Chris, you know Alfredo, Nemo, and Ed. And there's Jacob. I think it's probably the first
How you
time you've
doing?
been on
Nice
the
to
show
meet you,
when
Jacob.
Jacob's been here. Yep. You have anything you want to add, Craig? Or you just joining in for the conversation?
I just think that, from what he was talking about, the biggest house edge is time. As a player, you don't have that. You can't stay at the casino for forever. Casinos open 24/7 in some places. So time is against you all, every time you go. So can your bankroll sustain the amount of time you're going to be there? Yes. Do you want to go there with a strategy? Sure. But you're going there with strategies that you're going to play based on what's happening at the table. But your bankroll is going to be telling you how long you're going to be able to stay at the casino.
All right. Nemo, I saw your comment in there. Do you have anything you want to say? You said you were going to be quiet, which is a little unusual for you tonight. So, what do you have anything to say?
No, it's just that when it's just what everybody's been preaching. Everybody's been preaching the choir of managing the bankroll, and like I said, I've been trying to put together my own type of bankroll management system program. And yes, people think I'm nuts. I do understand Vince. Dang. Anyways, because it's just that I've been talking to Vince for quite some time as well. Him and I start to understand each other a little bit better. When I start making this bankroll management system, the new bankroll management system, I'm taking every bit of information from everybody and compile it all in one. That's what I'm doing. And that's what it helps prepare everybody from stop losses, win goals, percentages, how you want to split it up, how you want to go on the long run, and everything. Because not everybody has the sustainability to be able to do anything about what they're going to go to do with their strategy. Because every time when I start go with Vince about this, he put a ring craps, hyperdrive where most of the strategies will end up losing if you don't know how to do a bankroll management system on your own strategy, because it'll just completely die no matter what you're going to do with it. It doesn't matter what you do. Your strategy will die no matter what. If you don't know how to manage your bankroll, everything just makes no sense. It just dies right there. Anyways, and then Craig can attest to this. He's seen what I'm able to do. Craig, I don't know. I'll put you on this one.
No, you're right. The new bankroll management system that we've been working with and practicing, when people go with like a $500 bankroll and they're trying to play their strat, they're looking to either have a win goal or whatever, but are they ever actually trying to sustain their bankroll so that when they win, they're thinking of, okay, let me take another look at what I've got in the rack. Some of the strategies that people have put out, like I think Waylon had one where, he actually tells everybody, I think it was the one strategy, right, Jeff, where Waylon said, at some point you want to take a look at your rack to reassess. Right. And that's what this new bankroll management is. It's a reassessment of the bankroll that you came with. And if you're able to bet, win, try to get ahead a little bit, and then reassess, and then come up with, okay, let's come up with a new bankroll based on profits. And for what I came in to the casino with is now in my pocket. So at minimum, with the new bankroll management system, at minimum, you're leaving the casino with what you came with. So now you're going to see, okay, and a lot of times when you're able to do that and get into a new bankroll, I don't know, there's starting to be a feeling of, I think I can do more. I think maybe I can be a little bit more aggressive than I was when I first walked in. It gives you a new life. because then you have to tell yourself, okay, now I need a new win goal. So I had an original win goal when I came in with my $500 bankroll, but now that I've got my $500 bankroll back in my pocket and I've got a new bankroll, what's my new win goal going to be? Is it going to be another 20%? That's fine. But you have to tell yourself and realize, okay, I need to have a new goal.
I think that's the killer of gamblers right there, right? It's trying to create a new win goal when you go in, and you get on a tear and you start winning more money, but you're not satisfied, right? At the end of that roll, if you're not putting in all the chips because you've obliterated your win goal, right? Let's say you came in with 500, you now have in front of you 1,700 in profit. If you're not putting that on the table and saying, color me up, you're going to lose, because it's the mentality until you get burned enough. Enough of us that have played years and had tens of thousands of hours at the table, or thousands of hours at the table, will tell you more time that you're going to give them. And as you start to scale up and think, oh, well, I have a bigger bankroll to get, now I can 10x it or something like that, you're going to lose if you take that mentality and until you take it back, you reassess, let the bankroll build. It's not the time to try and do it when you're at the table. After a big run, they don't always happen. Unicorns don't pop out of people's butt, and rainbows don't come out all the time. So when you have one, smile and go hit the cashier, because if you don't do that, you're going to risk leaving it in the rail and it just won't come back.
Jacob, I saw
That's
you shaking your head with that that theory, and I know, Jacob, in your videos, you're constantly counting where you stand with what you bought in with. When you're doing your videos, and so your form of bankroll management, if you will, because there's a question in there again from Vince about recovery mode, which is probably a whole nother topic. But the way that you do your knowing where you are in your bank and knowing how much profit you have, because that's when you say you walk. You just heard what Alfredo said. You were shaking your head and you agreed, compared to what Craig and maybe Nemo were talking about their bankroll management system.
Well, I agree with all of them. Craig and Nemo, what they're talking about is like a compounded interest system, right? They're making money and then using the money to make money and then using the money to make money and everything, and that's great. My only problem with that style of play is, in my experience, that I feel like I make more profit by leaving right when I have my win goal. So instead of going and saying, okay, I'm going to take 70% of this profit and play again, and then 70% of that and play again, or something in that fashion, I feel like I end up losing that, and so I should have just kept it. And that's just my personal experience. But any kind of compounded interest system like that, it is gonna probably work, because you're playing with profit. I mean, so it should. The times that it does good, it'll do really good, right? And the times that it does bad, it can only do so bad because you've kept your original stake, right? So you can't ever do worse than zero, than what you started at. So it's great. And if they've developed like a very specific way and what you should do percentage-wise and everything, it's probably amazing. I mean, so that's my opinion on that. Now, sorry, I don't have his name on my tongue, but the other guy, what he was talking about is more similar to the way I play. Is that when I look at it, and you talked about when I'm counting my bankroll, the reason is because I want to know the exact moment that I'm in my window, that I'm in my 10 to 20% window. I want to know exactly when that is, because at that point, I'm structuring the game to where I win. I'm not going to lose from there. There's no way I will lose. What's on the table, what's in my rack, if it lands in that window, if I'm at 13%, I won't walk out a loser. I will not. And the reason is because I have hundreds of times before I discipline myself to this point. I won't now. I would never. If I get to that goal in that window, I will not lose. So,
Well,
and that's the way I play.
I'm going to add this comment up here, which Ed says all the time. Duracell is going to steal your line, and it's like Ed's thoughts. Do you go to play? Do you go to socialize? Or do you go to win? And in your words that you said consistently tonight, as you do in your videos, is you go to win. And there is a time to socialize when you're with a party and group. But typically, most of us serious craps players that are here, whether we set a win goal or not, we go to win. But the way that you portray your videos and the way that you describe how you do it. It's like layman's term, right to the point, guys. This is what makes Jacob, a winner or a loser, but makes him a winner during that particular session. Anybody else got any comments in here on this one? Chris Dice Dejan, you're sitting back there in the corner.
So many comments.
I don't really have any comments. I mean, you guys know I play for the win goal, and that's that. I hit it, I leave. I don't set a new win goal. To me, it just kind of digs into what you've already won. So that's my opinion on that, because how many times do you lose trying to hit that second win goal? And then how far are you willing to go down to try to make that back up? And I know you might lock the profit and then go for another goal, but I don't know. To me, it's like, you work for a wage. Let's say you get paid hourly. Like, I'm not going to let them pay me less than what they pay me hourly. So I go to the casino with my goal and I walk out of there.
All right, Jacob, we do have a couple other questions. I know that we've been on the show now. This show flies by, Jacob. 2 weeks ago, we went 3.5 hours. The after show went till 2:30 in the morning. I left everybody hooked up and I went to bed, and they were still talking in the after show. So we don't want to keep you here that long. There is a couple questions here that I'm going to back up for a while. John just reminded me of a question that I had queued up here. Oh, where did it go? I might have to ask it outright because there's so many questions I queued up. I'm just going to read it out loud, and I'll try to find it. Here it is. It comes from Brian over at Holy Roller. And congratulations, Brian, on your 1,000th subscriber. That's awesome. Question, can you share your passion with why you play craps?
Sure. Most of the reason I play craps anymore is because the world that it's built around it for me. I don't play craps like I used to, where like I was there 3 times in a week, and I don't do that no more. Because the other stuff I do that spawned off of the craps stuff, right? Spawned off of the craps world that I'm a part of with you guys and stuff, and the YouTube and everything. Guys, I've got to the point now with craps that I'm way more interested in going with new players and saying, yeah, let's go play. I will give you your best chance to win. You don't know how to play the game, so let's go. And I take them and I explain to them, and I'm playing with them as we're going. And this is a funny story because we were just kind of talking about it. My friend Patrick, I took him down there, and the only table that was open was one of those electronic tables, which is fine because he didn't have a ton of money. And so he puts 300 in. And I tell him, I said, when you're up 30, 50 bucks, we're going to quit. And he goes, what? And I said, yeah, we're going to quit. And he goes, well, don't you want to win more? I'm like, well, yeah, sure, but we won't. And he just hard for him to understand that. So we got up. And we were up 30 or 40 bucks. Well, he was. I mean, I was playing with him, but my money was just helping him understand what we were doing. And so he goes and he gets up, and I think it's the second roll goes like 9 rolls, right? And if you're playing the 6, 7, 8, and it goes 9 rolls and then a 7 with no points. So it was win, 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 win. And then I'm like, oh, we're done. And he's like, what? We just got here. And I'm like, well, we're done playing this session for sure. I said, you won. And I said, I was told you we would come here and I would try to help you win. Now you've won. And he goes, but we just got here. And I said, well, if we stay and we replay this and we replay it 10 times, we might lose the next 7. I said, you take your opportunity when it arrives, right? You don't, in my opinion, if you assume that it's going to stay good, then you're essentially saying the casino's math is wrong. If you assume it's going to stay profitable, and I don't do that. And so it was, but I'll tell you this, when he went over to that machine with his little ticket and he put it in there and it cashed out 383 or whatever it was, and he had $300 to start, now he had 383, he had a pretty good smile on his face, like he was like, wow, this was actually pretty cool. Yeah, we were probably there all together about an hour, and then we went and made some sports bets, but he made his sports bets for free that day. He put $50-$60 on some games for sitting at the craps table for 15 minutes. And so that's kind of the sense of that. I kind of lost the question, maybe, I don't know, but
I think that you were there. I know that we didn't talk time limit and how much time you had to us, and you more than are welcome to stay as long as you want. I know that you have other things going on in your life, and some of the people in the chat are starting to talk sports related questions. Go ahead, Jacob. Go ahead.
Okay, one question for you guys. Because I'm on my phone right now, I can't look it up. Will any of you guys look up if Eastern Washington won? Eastern Washington basketball.
John's on it.
Men's?
Yep. Eastern
Men's or
Washington.
women's?
John's on it.
Men's.
Yep. Men's basketball. Yep. We're looking it
check
up.
right now.
Yep.
They lost.
So,
Yeah, they lost 81-80. They lost
No.
to NAU. Yep. Yep.
That cost me a little bit of money.
Sorry. My daughter, literally, Jacob, my daughter, we Eastern Washington and Wazoo were her two choices for school. So
Yeah.
we chose
So,
Wazoo,
quick
but yeah, that's
question. Who is the best athlete to ever come from Eastern Washington?
Oh, that quarterback. What's the guy's name? That dude's a stud. They got his pictures everywhere. I forget his name.
The best athlete ever out of Eastern Washington is
I
not a
forget his
quarterback.
name. Are you sure?
Now, he might have
Who was
played
it then?
quarterback at Eastern
Oh,
Washington.
well, you're saying Cooper Kupp, right?
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp.
Cooper
yeah,
Kupp,
he's
man.
legit. Yeah, but their quarterback is legit. That dude is like insane. But yeah, Cooper Kupp is like, come on. Yeah.
all right. Let's go ahead and migrate over there, Jacob. I'm not sure how much time you have with us, but you are into sports betting, and you have a Discord that's there. You have the ability to help people, and go ahead and talk about that for just a little bit. I'll put some of the comments that came up in here, and there are some questions, guys, that are here for craps that we're going to get back to. But I did promise Jacob this time, so Jacob, go ahead and tell us. The wager me this just isn't craps. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Well, it's okay if we just talk craps, by the way. I'm fine with it. But as far as the sports part of it goes, for me, basically I handicap every major sport now, except for hockey. I really don't do hockey. Even though I like it, I don't handicap it. And I don't handicap soccer. But all the other major American sports I handicap, and I give out my information that I use for my own personal bets is what I do. So if you buy a subscription from me, you're able to go look at what I post on my website, and it's all my personal information on what I use to make my own bets. Now, the information varies as far as what sport it is. So in the NFL, you get a workup. I'm talking no joke, has my computer model involved, has every game broke down, and it has a lot of information. College football, there's like 200 games a weekend. I don't break down every game. College basketball, same way. You have 30 games a day, pro basketball. So the other sports are more specific to maybe one or two types of bets. But the NFL is really where my big thing is where I do the most work. And that's because I've done it the longest. I've handicapped the NFL between doing it in prison and then doing it out here for like 20 years. So, but for example, if you just take the Super Bowl, I went 8-3 on the Super Bowl in the bets I put out to my people. And I wish I could show you guys this workup right here, but I literally in my workup talked about how I didn't think that Philadelphia's defense had faced very many good quarterbacks and they were going to struggle and that they weren't going to be as good of a pass rush. I talked about all the things that actually happened in the game. And I talked about how Philadelphia would score on the Chiefs pretty easily. And it was in fact, it's one of the workups I'm the most proud of. It was so exact that it was almost like I'd already seen the game. And if you think about it, that's hard to do in that sense, right? Because Philadelphia was great all year. And most analysts, like talking heads on the sports shows in like ESPN, they were heavy Philadelphia. And I wasn't. So, but a lot of that just had to do with who they played, those kind of things.
All right. Real quick before we get to your actual website and what you can do for them, Chris Dystegen, Philadelphia. You know, you got a little bit of a rough time rubbed a couple weeks ago. You got any comments or anything to say to Jacob, since you two are both into the sports side of betting there?
I'm not going to address the game. I will address. I mean, that's all I have to say about the game. All right. I followed Jacob's picks on his channel for a while, and they've been good. And I know he puts a lot of work into it. So shout out to you, props to you for all of that. I saw your write up for the game. So you were very, very spot on. I put it in chat, the holding call, but not gonna go there because we're not gonna go there. But I know that you do well in football, and like you said, right, college basketball, college football. There's so many games on a night, a week. It's impossible to actually cap those, and all of them. You pick a handful. At least that's what I do. For me, right, I have a huge slate of games to pick from every single day because I'm a soccer bettor, right? So soccer is my number one sport. I have models for all of the major leagues and then some of the secondary leagues and stuff for soccer. But I'm looking at a card of over 180 some weeks, some weekends, like a Saturday. There's 400 soccer games on, right? So it's a massive, massive slate. I dial it back. So I know exactly what you're talking about with college football because I do cap college football somewhat, and college basketball I don't really dabble in. Obviously, March Madness tournament I do, but other than that, I don't. But I understand what you're saying with like the big slates and really finding those spots where you do have an edge or where the model gives you an edge that's an actual bettable edge, not just, oh, this team looks like they're going to do better. Because I'm sure you do it this way, right? I bet numbers. I don't bet teams. Now, yes, occasionally there's some homer bets that come in, like the Eagles to win the Super Bowl preseason. I'll hold my hands up. That's a homer bet. There's no mathematical model that was put into that one. But in terms of like soccer and stuff and like even football, I mean, I'll bet against the Eagles. If the model says the other team is and they have the edge, that's a bettable edge for me. I'll bet against them because I bet teams, or I bet numbers, not teams. So
Chris,
let me ask you a question.
I won.
Here's a question on your Eagles bet. So now, knowing what you know now about the game, or whatever, if you were betting on the Eagles side, wasn't that the gambling side?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you're betting the Eagles in the Super Bowl, you're gambling.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I bet on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl because I had. And this is like we talked about hedging earlier, right? And I'm hedging for profit there, regardless either way, because I had a bet preseason on the Eagles at 41 to 1 odds on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. That was pre-AJ Brown trade. Yeah. Oh, I was sitting fine. Now, did I hedge to make exactly middle the bet? No, because I was still rooting for my Eagles. But I hedged well enough that I was profiting thousands either way. Right? So for me, obviously, I want my Eagles to win that game. I'm rooting hard for my Eagles. But I wasn't terribly mad because I knew I had 4 figures coming back to the account anyway, regardless of what happened.
Sure.
All right.
So,
but okay, one more thing, because you're a Philly guy. Was Jalen Hurts amazing or what?
He's a tank. He's all right. So I followed, and Ed knows this because I followed him since Alabama, right? One of my best friend's sisters went to Alabama. I've been to multiple Bama games. So I didn't go to a school with a football team, so I can root for whoever the heck I want to root for. And Penn State's one of those teams because I'm from Philadelphia, right? And then Alabama's another one because I've been to more of their games than I have been Penn State games, believe it or not. But Jalen Hurts, first of all, he's a killer quarterback, all right? But even more than that, he's a stand-up dude. That guy has great morals, and he was brought up very, very well to the point where I can respect the absolute hell out of him, regardless of what happened. Because he loses with grace, and he wins grace. And that's one thing that I like. I hate when people can't take a loss. I hate when people win poorly. Shout out Juju Smith-Schuster.
The Jalen.
Juju played good.
Jalen.
Pacheco is the man. Fucking Pacheco. God, that guy. Whew. Give me him.
He's a local boy to me because he's a Rutgers boy.
Wow. Yeah.
So
one quick stat. When Patrick Mahomes in his career has been down by 10 in a game, he's still the favorite. Mm-hmm. He's won 50% of the games that he's been down by 10.
Amazing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Can I say something to that? No, I know. Andy Reid. Mahomes did the work. Andy Reid put in the frick work on that thing. That's why I told you, Chris, before that game started. Like, I'm never gonna root against or never gonna bet against Andy Reid. That dude's he's ridiculous. He put him in a spot to win when he was, yeah. That guy's he's the GOAT.
Look at Dylan. I love Dylan because Dylan hates sports, by the way. Dylan, he hates sports.
I know nothing. I don't follow it. So
What's funny is that shocks me because – go ahead.
I got two questions for Jacob. Number one, how much is the subscription? And are there different, and a follow-up to that, or are there different levels to your site or what have you? And then a separate question, for novices that know nothing, what can they expect from your service? And then, and a second follow-up to that follow-up is like, from the novice to the mediocre person to someone that, like John at ProCraps, that knows what they're talking about, that, are there different levels, or can you tell us a little bit about that, Jacob?
Sure. So the service is $25 no matter what. You get access to my Discord too. So my Discord is where you get direct contact with me. And when I suck, you can blast me. You can absolutely blast me, because the one thing I know about handicappers that sell their information is they hide. When they're doing bad, they hide. And I didn't want to be that guy. Look, every handicapper ever is going to go up and down. It's like any other gambling. You're going to miss, all right? The key is, do you put your people that you're advising in better situations to win more often? And it's kind of the same with craps, right? You're still betting numbers. You're still betting trends and consistency and statistics and overall outcomes. And one thing I will say is sports betting is very similar in ways to the stock market, where you take stock market analytics and you're looking at like 52-week trends and stuff. It's the same thing. If you'll take a sports team and you'll turn them into a stock and look at them, are they rising? Are they falling? What do they normally do? It's very similar in that sense. And I'm not a stock market guy, but I do understand that the analytics that they look at were transferred from stock market stuff into sports betting. And the people that I learned from myself, that's where they got it. So I know it does transfer as far as the thought processes go. But what you get from me, if you've never made a sports bet in your life, what you get from me is total access to anything that I can tell you. I'm not going to give you a bunch of wild shot in the dark sports bets. I'm not. I'm going to give you stuff that's going to hopefully land consistently to where you can consistently win something day in and day out, make profit day in and day out is the goal. Now, obviously, there's downtrends, there's downturns, but then I'm really good at the situational stuff. So, like the Super Bowls, the World Series, the games that I have a lot of time to look at and a lot of time to just attack and break down. By the time they happen, I generally have them pegged, and that just comes from experience and understanding what statistics matter. That's another thing that a lot of people miss when they're trying to become a sports bettor. They look at a statistic, for example, in football, a statistic they call YAC, yards after contact, or whatever. It's a useless statistic because all it's telling you is what a guy does after he's touched, right? Does he run for 6 more yards on average? But if you just look at his overall statistic, you get that added in plus everything else. And so a lot of times, instead of breaking it down to the point where they are splitting hairs, I use more of a broad approach to it. I don't want to have to split hairs between 1 or 2 yards or something, or 1 or 2 points. I want to have an advantage. I want to be like, this line is backwards or something like that. I don't want to be guessing, and I don't want to have to get lucky. And that's one of the things that oftentimes when handicappers are handicapping, they're handicapping on a very small edge. And I try to avoid that. I try to find the biggest edges I can find and use different betting methods to ensure wins as opposed to ensure value. And that's kind of the opposite of most people.
One other follow-up question. I know there's I don't know anything about betting, sports betting. Zero. I mean, zero. I know that some of our casinos here in St. Louis, they have sports bet right at the casino, and then there's one that's got DraftKings, and then another one has something else. Are there things that are there ones that you favor over another, or is there a big difference, or I don't know.
There is. Okay, so every sports book probably has a parent sports book, right? So DraftKings doesn't. DraftKings is a parent sports book now. They've sucked in Golden Nugget and all that. And they're a big entity. But most sports books are either like William Hill or Caesars or MGM or Barstool now. They've sucked up. So what they do is they come into these casinos, like in St. Louis, that needs a sports book, and they're like, hey, we'll back this. We'll be the sports book here, put our name on it in here, all that. And so it's their numbers, it's their handicappers, it's their lines, and they'll differ from the next guy, or they'll differ from DraftKings, or it won't be a lot usually. It might be a point, but that point could be the difference in whether you make a bet or you don't make a bet. So, for example, in football, you know that football goes in 7s and 3s, right? Dylan?
No.
So they score in 7s. The next guy, or they'll differ from DraftKings, or
we're getting an echo. Yeah, we're getting an echo from somebody.
Be the difference in whether you make a bet or you don't.
Kill your YouTube or something. Somebody's got a message.
Just trying to fix it.
Football goes in 7s and 3s, right?
Yeah, sevens or 3s, you said.
Right. They score in 7s. The next guy, or they'll differ from DraftKings, or
We're getting an echo. Yeah, we're getting an echo from somebody.
The difference in whether you make a bet where you
Kill your YouTube or something. Somebody's got to
just
trying to.
Not me. Not me.
reads, right?
Yeah, seven's a frequency you said.
But anyway, so on this one point,
Greg, mute your
you have
YouTube.
7s or 3s, right? So if you're going to give me a 6 and another place is going to give me a 7, that's going to push me to one side or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you're giving me 6, I'm laying the 7. If you're giving me 7, I'm taking the 7. And that could be the separation in the game right there. And there's value on those numbers as far as football goes. Other sports, not as much, but football has very specific numbers that have very specific values. And that's why if you ever look at a book and they have a line, you're going to see a bunch of 3s, 3.5s, 6.5, 7s, and 7.5s. And you're going to see a bunch of them because they're forcing the bettor to pick a side at that point.
So, are you comparing? Do you compare books, or how,
I do.
Is that okay?
It's called line shopping. You have to line shop if you want to be successful. So you have to have more than one book you use if you want to have a prolonged success in sports betting, because you'll find, like I said, a different number, and it could be that edge you need. You know, like on my model might say one team is 6 points better than the other. And if I'm getting a 7.5 at this book, I'm going to be looking at it like, man, I need to take those points because my model says this is much closer than this whole touchdown. And so you definitely have to have more than one book you use if you want to be successful. Now, you can use one and go with whatever they have, but you'll have to be better than they are.
Yeah. Yeah, let me jump in here, Dylan. I don't want to get too far off on the sports bet. It sounds like a conversation you and Jacob might want to have offline or after the show. I'm just watching the chats come in here, and Miguel said he's never seen Jeff so quiet. I actually had audibility problems, guys. I put my headsets on. John was moderating for me while I was continuing to move through here. Seems like we had some audio issues that were going on there at the same time I had mine. But Jacob, your website, you may have said when I was switching my headsets, did you give your website out? Did you get the opportunity to give your website and what value I heard you were talking about what they get, but do people know where to go?
Everything I do, whether it's YouTube or my website, is all wager me this.
Right.
Wager me this.
Me.
Yeah. I gotta speak up here for Jacob. So wagermethis.com. So Jacob helped my son out a lot. So my son can sports bet. I can't. You guys probably know this, right? He's in Oregon. I'm in Washington. We can't sports bet on apps. That whole line shopping thing and a couple of other things you've said, he has texted me and go, oh my God, your friend is the dude, right? Because you've changed the way he sees it, right? And he's made a bunch of money from you, or because of the advice you've given and how he line shops now. He's actually doing some of that stuff that you're preaching, and it's helped him a ton down there. So he's got 4 or 5 options to bet, and the service is 100% worth it. Like I said, I can't use it myself, but Zach is like loving it. So 100, Jacob, you're
and I make it cheap on purpose.
Yeah,
I make it cheap because I want the guy that only bets $25 to listen to me. I don't want to see a lot of services are hundreds or thousands of dollars. I don't know people that make $1,000 sports bets regularly. I know they're out there. I know they have them guys, but they don't need my help.
Yeah, no. So Zach is he's that guy. He's betting $5 and $6 a game, and he's trying to figure it out. And I think he's learning so much from what you're putting out there. Just the way that you talk through it is changing the way that he approaches it. So it's cool. I mean, he's a young kid. He's got no money. It's fantastic.
But guys, make no mistake, I have lost hundreds of sports bets. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. but I've also won thousands. So, it's a long-term investment in sports betting. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You have to be willing to put the effort in. You have to be willing to bet on daily basis, weekly basis. It is not a home run. It's a slow build of money.
Sort of like craps. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. All right, Jacob, we appreciate you being here. We welcome you to stay if you'd like to. If you have to go, we understand that. We've lost a couple players in the Zoom. They've gone over to play on Big AZ's channel in his nightly contest. But before we move off the sports betting, Craig, you were going to say something a little while ago before I lost my audibility. My headsets and my Bluetooth went out. Were you going to say something? You were going to ask Chris something, Craig? I'm going to assume that that's a no, Craig, because your audio is still off. All right, we're going to move. Let's switch back to craps, guys. And there's another question that came in here. And Jacob, I guess whether you look at the 6, 7, 8 as some type of hybrid play, or you look at it as a straight 6, 7, 8, there's a question that's been asked a couple times about hybrid, and this goes back. This is from Kevin from Blue Jay Way. You may not be able to read that because the question is so long, so I'll read it for you. I hear a lot of people talk about hybrid strategies and hedge strats. Can someone give an example of a true hedge bet and a true hybrid bet, so we are all clear when we talk about them? As some type of hybrid. Once again, I've got echo again, guys. Question has been asked a couple times about hybrid.
I think it's Craig.
This goes back. This is from Kevin from Blue Jay Way. You may not be able to read that because the question is so long, so I'll read it for you. I hear a lot of people talk about hybrid strategies and hedge strats. Can someone give?
That's coming from Craig, Jeff. There you go. Yep.
So, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to look at hybrid strategies as hedge strategies, you can, because if you can look at it in those terms, right? I mean, am I wrong? You could look at it like you're hedging with the don't against the box numbers. You could do that. You can totally do that if you want. But that's not the way I play it. I don't play it as a hedge. I'm trying to win on the 7, I'm trying to win on the 6, and I'm trying to win on the 8. I want all the numbers to be profitable. All I'm doing when I call it a hybrid is I'm saying that I want to take advantage of the most commonly rolled number in the game. I want it to win for me and not for the casino. That's all I'm doing. And so I refer to it as hybrid because in the big scheme of things, I'm a light side player. I want to play on the light side. I want to make numbers, and I want to be able to press them, and I want to be able to have long rolls. But what I know is that that's not reality. Reality is that you have to play with the 7, and that's how you sustain yourself. The 7 is more of like the foundation, right, that you can stand on, and then you build with the other numbers. So that's what makes it hybrid. It's not just a hedge against those box numbers. It's protecting those box numbers, but at the same time, it's profitable itself. So if you're playing the 6, 7, 8 and you're not playing the 7 as a profitable number, you're playing it wrong.
So that's the question, Jacob. Can I ask you a follow-up here? Because this has come up so many times, right? We know, like, and a good example is an iron cross, right? Iron cross, the ratio is important. Like the 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 box to field ratio is important. I think in a 6, 7, 8, the ratio is also important. And you can go heavy 7, light inside. You can go like 166, or you can go 66 and 25, right? So when you look at that, including the 7 in your win goal, are you looking to normally dominate the 7, have it be the bigger of the two sides, or do you like the other side to build up to it? Like, what is your preferred way of ratioing that out? Because I think that's where a lot of people get this wrong.
So one of the things I don't refer to it as much anymore. I still believe it, but there are craps specific plays, right? 64 across, 32 across, 96 across, 160, 110 inside. Craps specific plays, right? You don't find those plays anywhere else in any gambling. All right. So what I look at is I want to play 96 across. Now I'm going to have to knock off a number. So I'm probably down to 81 or 8, something like that. So what I do is I play $100 don't. Now I'm for sure profitable on every roll except for the point, right? If I'm not playing the horn or whatever, that's fine too. They're more break-even numbers essentially, right? There's no consequence either way. But if I have, let's say, a 9 as my point, and that's my only bad roll, that means, and I have every other number bet, and the 7 is profitable even with every other number bet. I have created this probability advantage for myself, plus I win on the 7. And so I always like my 7 to be profitable. I like it to outweigh my box numbers.
Okay. So in that case, 96 across and 200 is your number then. You're making sure that 7 is a winner for you no matter what.
Normally what'll happen is I'll put $100 don't, and I'll go whatever combination of stuff I'm doing. Obviously, if I roll a 5, 6, or an 8, I play the iron cross because you gain all the numbers then. Mm-hmm. So, but every other play, any other numbers, I play across the numbers, and I usually adjust my 7's profit with the odds on the don't. If I want more 7 profit, I put some odds on there. If I don't, if I'm fine with what I'm going to get, I'm fine with it.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Jacob.
All right. So, that was you see that a couple of people said that was a great question and a great answer from you, Jacob. We do have one other question that was here. It's been almost an hour ago. Let me find it here. This comes from Rob. He's a subscriber here, Rob Campro. He wants to know, do you need a different size bankroll if you're playing dark side or light side? I guess he's probably specifically geared towards you, but what do you have to say about that question?
Yeah, sure. Whatever your strategy is will dictate your bankroll. So if your strategy is just playing the 6 and 8, you need 100 6 and 8 bets. But if your strategy is playing 96 across, you need $9,600 to kind of guarantee success, right? Now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't win any other way. You could win with $96 and it could go great in one roll. But if you want to outweigh the bad runs, the bad variance, and you're going to play $100 across the board every shooter, you need to have a chunk of money. Now, if you're going to play just a $30 6 and 8, so think about it. 10 shooters is $600 on a $30 6 and 8. Think about it. One orbit at a full table, 6 and 8 is $600 investment. So if you go through that and it doesn't pan out, but that, most people play the 6 and 8 is why I'm bringing it up. And the 6 and 8's a great play. Why wouldn't you, right? You got 10 ways to win. So, but that's what I'm saying is, so your bankroll, it depends on what you're betting, right? It depends on your strategy. It depends on, now, if you're just going bankroll off the table minimum and it's a $15 table, you probably should have at least $1,500. Now, that usually that person is going to vary in their strategies. They're going to, do some different things, make some moves. But if they're just going to be one of those set it and forget it guys, where they just dump the money into one type of bet all the time, you better have a lot of them.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, we've lost the Zoom connection, and I'm not sure if it's Zoom or what the issue is, but the technical issues happen when we do this type of a show here. So I've sent Ed a link to get in the show. Don't know if he's going to come back with us or not. So here's another question. This comes from Brian from Holy Rollers. Do you bet differently based on the betting of the shooter versus betting of the dice strategy or strategies?
I could care less what the shooter does.
Okay.
Now, I will look at, because one of the things that I do to protect my don'ts, because while I don't think that there are controlled shooters in the sense that they can beat the 7, I do think that there are guys that try to control shoot that roll extra sevens. I do think that, just from what I've seen. If I see a person set the dice in the hard way set, I'm really leery about my dome, because the hard way set has extra sevens on it. And if you know what dice setting is, you know this. All right. And everyone that's really been involved with George or anyone, they can explain this to you really well. Like, because you automatically have 4 numbers on there. If you're matching a hardway set, there's 2 extra sevens. If you move those dice around a little bit, you can cut out 2 of the sevens on axis or whatever, right? So when I see a hardway set up, I'm leery about my dome, because there's more likelihood that if the player throws the dice correctly, that I'm going to get hit. So I do pay attention to that a little bit, but does a player dictate what I bet based on what they bet? No, I don't care.
Okay. Anybody else? Dylan, how about you? With what Jacob just said?
Oh, I completely agree. I completely agree. So yeah,
I'm that way when I see a 3V. When I see somebody throw a 3V, and I watch players. You see a guy set a 3V and his throw is shit, like the dice aren't tumbling, they're like rumbling. I'm like, oh god, that's a 7 coming. Other than that, I don't, except for when I play with a couple of guys I know that throw a lot of certain numbers. And I play with them enough to know that that's kind of their butter zone. I might bet with them. But yeah, I'm looking for, like Jacob, 3V, I get scared. That's the one time I worry a little bit. And Arnell has asked this question too. He's like, do you bet differently when you see somebody dropping? Like, let's say the guy gets the dice and he starts betting the 4, 5, 9, and 10. Like, does that impact what you're betting on when you see he's got the dice and he's betting on certain things? Does that like get into your head at all?
No,
it doesn't for me. But he's kind of telling you what he figures he's going to throw, I guess.
Well, but here's the thing: is if a guy bets the inside numbers, is that really an indicator of anything?
What if he's betting outside? What if he's betting 4, 5, 9, 10?
Okay,
and he's got the dice.
Yeah, now
if he comes
out,
like.
So I've seen this a few times, right? He comes out and he throws $100 on the 4 and 100 on the 10, and I'm expecting to get a 4 or a 10 for my don't. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be interesting. Because we're going to be against each other most likely.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to cross your mind, right? For sure. There's no getting that out of your head.
But if it's just the 6 and 8 or even inside, them are such common bets, and they're such early on in your craps life go-tos, right? 6 and 8 inside, they're the go-tos when you first start. So they don't affect me that much. But now if they're doing something weird, I'm like, oh, this is weird,
Yeah.
Hey, Jacob, I got a question for you. On your anything but 10, when I know you normally go. I know you normally go to the Iron Cross version instead of the across. When it's the 5, the 6, and the 8, have you done a compare? So my question is, have you done a comparison when the point is 5, 6, or 8, when comparing the Iron Cross version to the across? Have you done them both ways? And does the Iron Cross seem to favor winning, or I'm just curious? Have you ever done that comparison or thought about that?
So I have an answer to this, and the answer is I've done my own comparisons, and I actually think I videoed a comparison once. Now here's the deal: it's a preference game. If you're a 3 hits and down guy, you should play the Iron Cross, because as long as you don't roll the bad number, you're going to win, right? You're going to win the next 3 rolls. Now, if you're a presser and that's your goal is to press up, you should play across the boxes, because it's an easier way to press, right? Pressing the Iron Cross is actually difficult, because you have to press it in steps. so it works right, you know. So it's more difficult than just either like pressing the number you hit or pressing the sister, or if you have, maybe you have to where you're winning over $32 each time, maybe you just press 32 every time, you know, whatever the case may be. It's a preference thing. What are you doing? Are you going 3 hits and down, or are you shooting for the moon? You know, if you're shooting for the moon, you should play across the boxes. So that's my explanation.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And by the way, the thing I think I put on video on that, I believe that the boxes beat the Iron Cross, and I think it was significant if I remember right, because the roll went long, and them field numbers were only hitting for a minimum, and then pressed up numbers on them boxes were starting to make some real money. So the potential is obviously heavy on the upside for the pressing. But as far as if the probability and the variance would be on the Iron Cross's side, right? If you have a bunch of 3-roll rolls, the Iron Cross is going to repeatedly win, where the pressing's not going to win as much.
Gotcha.
All right.
We can't do super chats as well, right, John? We can't do that.
We
correct?
can. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just make sure, because we haven't mentioned that, and I want to make sure that the people are aware that we can't do super chats and we'll read them, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Well, we
I
can.
always
And
feel weird about asking for that, so that's why I don't mention it.
well, I think why Nylan mentioned it, John, was because I was actually going to, while I was here tonight, actually do this. I'm trying to get Ed back into the show here. Let me get him back in the show. Guest 3. There we go. Ed's back in the show now. He's actually joined us a different way. Ed's back in here. I was actually hoping that just came through. I was going to talk about the memberships and so forth for CGTV. I think Dylan kind of beat me to it. I'm kind of hoping that this is going to go through. But in any event, there we go. I was going to show people this, John. I waited to join for this, to show people, to actually show that, memberships are there, and CGTV hit the 1,000 subscribers on our last show.
Yeah.
And you've gotten a couple people to actually join, and there you go. I just as Mid-Atlantic Craps, I just was waiting for tonight to become a new member and actually show that. Yeah, well, I'm supporting everything that we do here.
You're part of the CGTV family, though, right? It's like you're supporting yourself, kind of. But can we talk about what people get for their membership at CGTV?
Sure, of course.
About this. What do you get?
Yeah.
What do you get as a CGTV member? What do you think you get?
Are you asking me, or are you asking?
I'm asking, what do you get as this for $5 a month? What do you get for $20 a month? What do you get? The answer is the same.
The content.
Probably. Come on, you know the answer. You get nothing. You get fucking nothing.
Zero.
All you do is you get the satisfaction of saying, "We love what you do." That's it. We love your help. We love the support. It's going to buy Jeff cameras and me cameras, and it's going to pay for people's internet. And we're giving you no members-only content. We're not giving you hats. It's just thanks for the dough, and we're going to use it for good. We're going to help ourselves out and make sure that guys that are putting content on this channel get their internet paid for at first, and we'll figure other things out. That's what it is. So we appreciate
I want to speak on this.
Membership is awesome. Yeah, go for it, Jacob.
I want to speak on this really quick. That's awesome, because I don't give out nothing for my memberships, and I've talked about it before, and I've thought about it. But the problem with that is you get into this slippery slope of, if you give out, like, Jeremy's amazing, right? Jeremy gives you chips and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have time for all that. I have a sports betting thing. I have YouTube. I have a job. I have kids. I have a wife. I have a house I'm remodeling. I don't have time for that. And it's nothing against anybody. I love everybody. But that's just one more iron in my fire I don't have time for.
Right.
I hear you. I don't know how Jeremy does it.
And so I think it's great.
Stuff out all the time. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, he's full time.
No, I think it's cool.
He's full time YouTube. He said on his last.
He
said on his last
went full time a few months ago. Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
He went full time like 2 months ago, like just after 8 years. He's just finally now
He
making
earned
enough
it.
money to live on YouTube. Yeah, he didn't earn it, but he put in the work.
And he's got,
Trust us. There's no money in this. This isn't like we're doing this for the cash. But
and he's got his
if
poker
we can help
channel.
pay some bills. Yeah,
And-
that's small.
Yeah.
It's growing tiny.
Right. All right, guys, let me go back and see if we have any other unanswered questions. The tech issues today have really disappointed me on my side. Here's a question
they're unacceptable.
Yes, I know, Jacob, and it's very disappointing because we do what we do to try to make this happen. And actually, I just checked the back end of Zoom's status page, and I don't want to say it was their problem. Could have been my problem. Anybody that's come in the way that you came in we're not having any problems. It's all on the Zoom side. Let me put this question up here. This comes from Albright Rock. He says, does anyone on this panel consider themselves advantage players, a.k.a. APs, and why? Jacob, I think I know what you would say, and I know what Ed would say. I'm just a very avid fan of the game. Recreational player turned serious pre-COVID, and I'm loving the game going forward. I don't think I'm advantaged, but I certainly have learned from you, Jacob, and I certainly have learned from Ed. So what do you say first, Jacob? What do you think of advantage players, if there is such?
Well, if they're talking about dice control as advantage, then I'm not in that category.
Right.
Now, if they're talking about understanding of the game and the ability to win at the game no matter what happens, right? No matter how the table's going, no matter what table conditions are, if it's full, if it's empty, if it's bouncy, if it's hard, if it whatever bets are there, if there's no bonus bets, if there's all that, I can win at every table because the way I play has nothing to do with how someone rolls the dice. It just has to do with what the dice roll. So in that sense, I would consider myself an advantage player because I can go anywhere in the world and my game travels. It doesn't matter what table it is. It could be 100-foot long. It doesn't matter to me because the way I play it doesn't make a difference.
Right. And
now,
Ed,
there are guys that can manufacture numbers. I'm not one of them. So for those guys, kudos, man. I can't do it. You can. So I'm proud of you, man. I've seen it a few times, not as much as people want to say there is, but I've seen it a few times where I was like, wow, that's impressive. And I've been on the right side of it a few times. I've been on the wrong side of it a few times. So, and most of that was ego, me thinking, yeah, whatever, you're not that. And then they smack me. So, but then I've seen it too. And I'm like, yeah, I remember when you smacked me. So I'm going to jump on this side and I'm going to just let you make me money. And so I've been on both sides of it, but they're out there and it is real. It's not real to the way it gets spoken about and the way it gets portrayed, but dice manipulation is real.
Wow. Well, I can tell you that I had an opportunity to play with somebody that I believe has the skill to be able to do it, and that's not skill that way. That's skill down there, right over there to the corner. Ed, I played with him and a couple other names that I could probably throw out there, Jacob, that you would recognize a few weeks ago, and I witnessed it firsthand, and I've been using Ed's motto that he usually says about that. But I do agree that when you're at a table with a bunch of random rollers, you have to be very cautious as to what side you're playing, and I do believe in the 6, 7, 8 on those type players, as I believe Ed does too. But Ed's going to tell us about dice, what he thinks about dice influencing, dice control. Ed.
Takes a lot of practice, and there's a lot of people out there that believe that they can have influence on the dice, and they're just totally flipping random as random can be. Setting the dice doesn't mean shit. Doesn't mean squat. You've got to learn how to read what your dice are doing on any given table. And if you're a practiced tosser, you can decrease the house edge a minuscule amount. And I know we talked about really not worrying about the house edge, but I'm going to PSO. I'm going to have 3 rollers. I'm going to have 40 rollers. It's what do I do with that 3 roller and what do I do with that 40 roller that makes the difference. I'm not going to go out there and go 96 across. I'm not necessarily going to go out there and go 110 inside. I think those bets are stupid. That's my personal opinion. I think going out there and jumping out there like 640 across, I've seen people do that, and I'd PSO, and I look at them, I go, you didn't qualify the shooter. You know, you got to practice it, and you've got to know what your own personal probabilities are. All right, so if you've got a small edge over the 7, it's what do you do when that 8th roll comes? How do you play that 8th roll, that 7th roll, that 8th roll, that 9th roll? Those are the ones that make you the money. Anybody can make money on a 40 roller. It's what do you do on that difference between that 6th and 9th roll? And that's where the advantage comes in. That's where experience comes in. That's where checking your ego at the front door of the casino comes in. And then when you're on, and you're on as a tosser, you want to take full advantage to it and burn them as hard as you can, because they're going to burn you on the PSOs. But you didn't see me go out there and bet 96 across or 640 across or 220 inside. You didn't ever see me do that. You saw me go out there and play 2 numbers, maybe 3. A small buy-in. You saw me play inside, maybe on a small inside table. But when you take a $10 4 like we did that one morning, and I turn that into a $250 bet, and I hit it, and I've collected along the way, there's some influence there. I think I had that little table figured out. I can't wait to go back, but. I may not have it figured out when I go back. That's always the question. When you're popping them hard ways the way I was popping those hard ways, there's some influence in there. When you hit 3 hard 10s in a row, you're doing the same thing exactly the same way 3 times in a row, basically, off that set. So I don't care whether people believe in it or not. I've seen it.
I like what you're saying. You said something in there that I really liked, and I'm trying to remember what you said.
Well, it didn't make an impression then.
It did, but you said it was early on, and so you said so much more after that. But if you're taking a $10 4 to 250, that's not you weren't guessing, You were hitting it, so you're like, yeah,
I was hitting it, and I knew how to bet it.
Right.
Yeah,
I was hitting it, Jacob. I knew how to bet it, and I took my money. I took my money off the table as I was going up, and then I hit that sucker for 250. And the dealers, it was such a small casino. The dealers looked at us and said, "We're not used to seeing these $25 chips out there." I said, "You better get used to it."
Yep. I was actually there with him, Jacob, when he went quarter on the hard ways. He turned to me and said, "Watch this," and he hit a hard way, and then he had a couple other numbers that he hit, and then he hit another hard way, and he had his hard ways up to 100, and he hit back-to-back tens, hard way tens. He threw 3 in that set of probably 8 rolls, but he hit hard way tens back-to-back, and he got paid, $700, back-to-back times, and he went from no blacks in his rack to close to almost 2,500 in just a few rolls. And I'm like, of all, and I got on the hard ways late. The guy to my left got on the hard ways late. I had mine up to $20. Here I'm at 20. Ed's got black chips on there, and he had $5 up for all the or more than that. What did you have up, Ed? You had more than that. You might have 20.
I pressed them up $12 on every hard way.
Yeah. So to answer the question about advantage play and DI and setting the dice, Ed, I think maybe this is what you remember what he said, Jacob, is that setting the dice and influence and dice are two different things. And although I set the dice and I rhythm roll every time, I tried to do it. But I don't claim to be an expert, but I've witnessed it and I've seen what Ed's done. And I've heard some of your videos where you're setting the dice and you're throwing what you're doing. And, lately here, when I go to the casino, if I'm with one friend of mine, typically it's people that either I play with all the time or I don't know at all. And, you change your style of play based upon the table conditions or the players. All right. Dylan, John, any comments on that? I'm going to put your question up here, John.
Okay, I got a question actually about this because the word advantage means you've beaten house edge, right? And there is a number somewhere, the SRR number, where you quote unquote surpassed the house edge. And I think when I look at things like, okay, an SRR of 6.5 or 6.7 or whatever the number is, over the course of a million rolls, sure, you have an advantage. But really, I think what Ed's getting to, and maybe I'm wrong of how I characterize this, but you're an advantage player in the moment because you saw something in what you're doing. Like right now, I'm throwing a bunch of hard ways. Sometimes right now you're throwing a bunch of fives, right? And I think that's where your advantage is when you can read your dice the way that you do. And that's what takes you into like from our level to Ed's level is like your ability to read the dice and be an advantage player in the moment versus being an advantage player using math over many, many, many rolls. I think that's those of us who are trying to log a bunch of rolls doesn't matter, right?
It is kind of in the moment. It's a situation where, look, I can't tell you how many hours and hours and hours I've thrown the dice. And it speaks volumes for how pathetic my life is, right? Because I spend a lot of hours throwing dice. But I've done it for years. I've done it for years and years. And when you start getting what you expect to get, and you get it over and over and over, you're in. And so that's when you push it. That's when you push the envelope. You push it. I mean, you've already got your money off the table. Now you want to see if you can get to a maximum bet. Yeah, that night, those 2 nights with Jeff on that one table, I was on. There was no doubt about that. And when you start throwing those hard way bets on there, and you're hitting hard way, right? You're really making money fast. You're not messing. You don't have to have a 30 roller to make money fast if you're popping 6 or 7 hard way, and you're pressing them up the way I press them up, because I press them all one unit. The island's hanging upside down there.
I was going to say, what happened there?
Yeah, he's trying to fix it. He lost his connection.
But
keep turning, darling. Keep turning.
It's in that moment. It's in that hand, and you may have it for 2 or 3 hands, and then it may be gone. And you've got to be smart enough to realize you don't have it now. It's time to color up.
All right.
So Ed, I got a question.
Okay.
What do you think? Okay, on the hard ways, like I see guys put $5 on the hard ways and just leave it. That's a waste, right?
Yep.
If you're not going to press it, then you're just what are you betting it for?
Yeah, I don't know why they're betting it. They're betting it because they think they're attracted to that 9-1, that 7-1, or they're the glamour of it or something like that. But when I do it in quarters because I want to make some money. And I feel like if I know my toss is working the way I want my toss to work, and I see those hard ways coming. So what you got to understand is even with how do I explain it? If somebody's a DI, if somebody's got a reasonable amount of influence, whatever that y'all can define that whatever you want to. And all of a sudden, their set starts tossing a hard 6. And they don't normally throw hard 6s, or you don't normally throw the hard 6. There's something that they're doing with their particular toss that caused that to happen. Could be a little bit of finger pressure. It could be a little bit of a roll in the wrist. Could be height, whatever. There's something they did that changed the normal outcome that they would normally expect. Take advantage of that. And that's what you do. All right. So I've learned, especially, I'm going to admit how naive I am, but especially this year, because I've stayed off the hard ways for years, because it's really and truly, it's a sucker bet, like you said. But the way I play it, if you're going to play it with nickels, press it a nickel every time. Press every one of them a nickel every time you hit it. The worst you're going to be out is 1 unit. If you hit a 4 or 10 hard, you got 1 unit that you're out. But if you hit the 6 or the 8 unit, you're up a few units. So what difference does it make? Press them all. Even if it's just luck and you hit one, you made a splash. But you start hitting 3 or 4 of those hard ways at one time or in one hand, you're making big money. Maybe you only throw 18 times, which is a lot. Okay, 18 tosses is a lot, but whatever it is, if you threw 3 or 4 of those hard ways in that one session, you made some money. It's kind of like shooting for horns. You said earlier, you talked about horns. That first horn is garbage as far as what you're really after. You want that second, third, and that miraculous fourth horn. That third horn's hard to get. Back-to-back horns is not unreal. That third horn's hard to get. That fourth one that's out there in, spectacular land, right? I mean, when you get that fourth one, you're making a payday. The problem is people don't come down. They
don't take the money.
Yeah.
They get greedy. So,
but I agree. If you're going to play the hard ways or you're going to play the horns and you're not pressing them, just stay off them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I agree with that 100%. If you're not going to press it, some people will just press the one number. And we all see these knuckleheads go out there and put $1 on all the hard ways, and they want to parlay it. They got a $4 bet to slow the game down, and they're going to parlay it, hoping they're going to get lightning strikes. That don't happen. It just doesn't really happen because it's so rare, that it happens.
Ed, you actually have a video out today on the hard ways that your shot of the week came out talking about hard ways.
I actually do. Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, guys. I'm looking at the questions. It looks like there's more comments coming in. We did have this question from John. I put it up there. We were kind of talking about it. It's a question for Ed. Qualifying the shooter, does it matter on a Randy or only on someone that really clearly is trying to set the dice and toss correctly?
You got to qualify everybody. And I usually qualify.
Can you qualify a random shooter? That's my question. Like, I can qualify you. Like, are you throwing in your zone today? Right? If a guy's just hucking and chucking, he's not proving anything. Right? That's pure.
Yeah,
that's pure luck.
You see
right?
people. You see all these wannabes that will set the dice and they'll pick them up and shake them. And then toss them. And you're like, what the hell good did that do, right?
You can't qualify that guy, right? That guy's not proving he can throw 6.
They bang them against the wall until they get a certain number. I don't even know what they're looking for.
They don't either.
They don't either. I mean, then they take and set them to something that didn't show up when they were banging them against the wall. I don't know what that means. So I'm just on a don't pass on those knuckleheads.
We all see that.
It's stupid. It's freaking stupid. Yeah. Right? Yeah. If you're out there doing that, I'm sitting there going, you're the dumbest SOB I've ever seen. I don't know what you're doing. All right. So, you qualify them. Sometimes I won't make a bet at all, right? I'll just sit there and watch, and I'll watch them throw. All right. Did he set the dice? Yes. Okay. Did he hit the same landing zone twice? And did he get a reasonable number off that set? Then I might bet a 6 or an 8, or I might just wait until the next time he gets the dice. Right? I mean, I can tell you a story. I saw a guy in Beau Rivage one morning, and this was right after COVID. We were on $25 minimum tables, and he bought in with $200. And there wasn't nobody on the table but me and him. and I'm at stick left one, and he's over there on straight out on stick right, and he bought in for $200. And my immediate thought was, he ain't got enough bankroll. This is going to be a random guy. And he set the dice, and I just watched him. He set the dice until one way until he made his point, and then when he made his point, he changed his set. And then I noticed when he changed his set, he started hitting hard tens, but he wasn't betting hard tens. He was just betting 10. I threw again, had a decent little hand. He got the dice back, and I watched him. He set them the same way he did the first time until he set his point. He was shooting for a 7. when he set a point, he changed his set. I put money on the hard 10. He hit it 3 times because I watched him. I watched what he did. I watched what he had been doing and how he played it. We both colored up at the same time, and I'd bought in with 4 times what he bought in for, and we colored up for about the same amount. The guy was a professional. He knew exactly what he was doing when he walked in there. He walked in there trying to throw 7s, set a point, then he's shooting for the point. He colored up $1,700 just like I did. Same time. He knew exactly what he was doing. He walked in there early that morning and got his money and went home.
That's what I do.
I know exactly what he looks like. I know exactly what he looks like, and I ain't seen him since.
I go in the morning. I don't like being there late.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I gotta go.
All right, Jacob. There was just one final question for you, and this will be a 1 minute answer for you, Jacob. This question comes says, Jacob, do you keep a running total on craps and sports gambling? I think he's probably talking about maybe your wins and losses. That comes from Double Deuce Dice.
As far as sports gambling goes, I don't keep the actual. I was keeping up with it, but it got to be a lot. But every workup I've put out is on there. So you can look back 7 months, 10 months, and you can add them all up. But when baseball season starts in pro baseball, I'm going to go back to keeping a running total of wins, losses, and my ROI. If you guys don't know what ROI is, it's rate of increase. Based on the bets that were made in them sports. Because even though I don't hide anything, I feel like putting that out there is even more transparent. And I want to do that for my guys. That way they know what I'm doing good in or what I'm doing bad in. And I just feel like it's better for them. It's part of the service. As far as craps goes, man, I haven't used my own money for craps for a long time, so I don't know. I don't keep track of it. I buy stuff, right? If I win, I go buy something.
Right.
And so, but I make between 500 and 1,000 off YouTube a month, just YouTube alone. So that's okay with me. I mean, when I go gamble, I might have $1,400-$1,500 just from YouTube alone to just put out there. Honestly, I haven't used my own money in a long time. It's always been YouTube money for years.
Well, Jacob, we appreciate you coming on. I'm glad you're so upfront. You're honest. You're straightforward. You tell it like it is. That's one of the things I've always liked about your channel. And the few times that we've talked, I just find that so fascinating. That just how you are here today is what I've seen. And I appreciate you coming by. I'll give my co-host up there, Dylan, and if the final words before you jump out of here. And we'll just let the panel say something to you because we've lost Zoom. Dylan, do you have any final words for Jacob? A big thank you, maybe?
Just a great large thank you. You're one of the main pillars of the craps community, and we all love you, and can't wait to see your next video and the video after that, because we're so enthralled with what you're doing and what you're able to do, and the explanation of how you do stuff. So just keep doing what you're doing, and you have massive support, and the craps community loves you.
So one of the things that, on this last video I put out, right, it was the one on the light side, right, with the proper bankroll, and it lost, right? It took me 3 videos to roll a loser video. And I was trying to have a video that lost because people tell me all the time I never have videos that lose. And the reason is because I quit. I don't keep going.
Right. It's a good point.
So
Valid point.
that's why they're not losers.
All right.
But anyway, thank you guys. One thing I want to say about dialing is if you're in, and I've said this before on other people's stuff, and I've said it other times, if you want to know about regression and the proper terms of regression and how you do it correctly, Dylan's one of the best I've ever seen. He understands the steps in regression. And I know a lot of players are regression players. So if you're a regression player, you should talk to Dylan. He has a lot of stuff set up. He has where it regresses you to playing for free. And so that's one thing I've always been kind of amazed by how good you're at the regression stuff. I've always liked it. It's not really my style, but I like what you do there. So
thank you so much.
John,
buddy. You guys have a great day.
It is really big now. I mean, it's swelling out through the screen there.
Yep.
But Ed, we're gonna play together sometime.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Yep.
Have you tried the new?
And I will
tried Ghost Strike since the Choctaws bought it? Have you tried Ghost Strike?
I know I haven't been over there. I'll be honest. I probably won't like it no more. Because
I heard it's the same
one of the things a lot of native casinos, they change certain things about them that I don't like. A lot of times they change the way the dealer interaction is and stuff. I like friendly, down to earth Southern dealers. You know what I mean? I don't really care for the uptight Vegas. Like, it's terrible. I want them to come up there and I want her to be like, hey, honey, what are you betting? I don't want to hear, talking back there to themselves. And, I like them to be friendly.
Let me put this out here for you because since Ed didn't mention it, Ed's having a small meetup the weekend of June 10th in Biloxi. If you're interested there, Jacob, just contact Ed.
Well, I'm glad you told me because that gives me enough time. I got kids and stuff. June 10th. June 10th in Biloxi.
Yep.
Correct.
I'm going to have to go to Vegas through Biloxi in June. That's going to be hard.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to be down at the Hard Rock mostly.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yep. Jacob, you touch base with either one of us. I'm going to be down there with Ed that weekend, and like John just said, I may have to go from Biloxi right straight to Vegas if I'm going to make DiceCon again. Yeah. So Jacob, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you putting up with the technical issues we have today. Occasionally we have them. It seems like when we have somebody big like you come on, the last technical snafu I had was when we had Jeremy from Color Up on here, and it's aggravating to me because I'm a perfectionist, try to be, and it's one of my downfalls. But thank you for coming on.
Big.
What's that?
Big. Am I one of the bigger channels? I'm not one of the bigger channels.
Yeah.
You're royalty. You are royalty. Yeah. Come on, Jacob. You know it.
Yeah.
I guess I don't look enough.
No, we appreciate you coming on. You're welcome back anytime, Jacob. I look forward to meeting you and playing with you at some point. At least sitting down, just like Ed and I did a couple weeks ago, and just talking. We didn't have to necessarily play, but it's great. Maybe we'll see you in June. Hopefully, get enough time to get out there. I don't want to hold you up anymore, Jacob. I appreciate you coming on the show.
See you,
Thank you guys for having me.
All right, we'll see you, Jacob. Take care. Take care. All right, guys, here we are. We're back, and I've lost the Zoom side of it, so we're not going to have an after show. Are you here? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're not going to. We won't be having an after show tonight because of the Zoom connection, but it is what it is. It's been a really tough night for me. Let's see, there was another question in here that we got to put up here. Midmo just left, so I want Chris to be able to see this. This was a question for Dice DJ when he was on. When are you going to pop the question to your girlfriend? So I wanted to let you know that was in there. And then Duracell had this earlier. What was the over/under on a 3-hour craps chat? So we're approaching that 3-hour time frame. And then this one came out earlier too. John, over/under 110 on the first F-bomb that John dropped, and I don't remember what that was. Chris isn't on the show with us, but he probably kept those statistics. I just wanted to put those out there, guys.
There was no F-bomb today, so
yes, there was.
There was one.
There was one.
Yeah,
it was during the audio problems that we were having. So let's go ahead and wrap this up here, guys, tonight. I know Ed's got to work in the morning. I appreciate his time coming on. It's actually entertaining for me to see Ed and Jacob side by side and talking along with the other people we had in here. We had Alfredo and Nemo and Craig and Craftsmaster Journey tried to get on. We had issues in the Zoom side. It is what it is. We just let the show move on. We've had good shows, we've had bad shows, but it is what it is. I don't see any more questions. If somebody has a question out there, let's just go around and recap tonight. Let's start with Ed. I know you got to work in the morning. I know we talked about things with the kind of work that you do compared to gambling, but you like both sides of what you do for a living, and you like craps. Give us some words of wisdom, storyteller. Brown water.
Well, let's see. What would you like me to? I can create a story if I need to.
No, I don't need you to create a story.
I'm sorry I missed a lot of the audio issues. You and I were texting back and forth. I don't know. It was obviously a Zoom problem. And I know y'all were talking about sports books, I think, during that time. It's a funny thing. I play a lot of sports bets myself during football season primarily. And if you want to build a bankroll, learn how to do some parlays. You hadn't got to risk your bankroll to build a big bankroll with a parlay. You just need one good 6 or 7 team parlay to hit for $100, and you make a lot of money. And I've done that. I didn't hit a dadgum one. I didn't hit a dadgum parlay all this year. Not a single one. But that's the first time in a long time. But you can build one. And it's not a bad way to carefully try to build it up, try to build you a big pop. If you can, just do $50 or $100 parlay on a decent payout. I mean, it's like I tell my buddy that helps me make them, because we can't do them here in Alabama, but he's in Mississippi. So I tell him I got to have one that's good enough for me to, drive to Mississippi to pick up. So I need at least a $2,000 winner. And we had some last year. I'd go over and pick up my $2,000 at the sports book and take it straight to the craps table. Not even take a dime with me to drive there. Just drive over there, go to the sports book, get my money, and then go to the craps table, spend the night, and come back the next day. That's worth it. $2,000 worth it. I don't want to drive over there for $50. I'm not going to. So I like the parlays. And that's got nothing to do with craps, but it's got something to do with building a bankroll.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, John, there was a comment put up here earlier in the show almost 2 hours ago from Midmo Yo. I see he's still here with us. He said, but John, Martingale in the field is in the unicorn.
That's funny. That was, he wrote that because I put a thing out there. I'm like, the only time I ever root against a player is when I see a guy running some kind of field parlay bullshit. And I'm like, I hope that guy loses his ass, because I want everybody to see what a bad bet the field is. And then Chiro wrote that.
Oh, wow.
I never root against people who lose money, but that's when I see somebody running a field system, I'm like, you know what? Everybody's watching, and this guy makes a fortune. They're all going to start doing it. No. And no. Yeah.
Well, We have a last minute question before I come back to you, John, and give you some final thoughts there before we head to Dylan.
Yeah.
And that is this one for Ed. There's a question: do you ever hold the shot while you're rolling the dice, or is it a must that you must take the shot before you roll the dice?
Does he talk about the whiskey shot?
Yeah, I believe that's what he's talking about. The brown water.
Now, did you see? All right, did you see me drinking at the table much?
No, I did not. The nightcap. Not very little.
Nightcap,
In the morning.
Nightcap.
In the,
Every once in a while, if I ordered anything, it was a bourbon. Then I'd order a bottle of water to go with it, so I could stay hydrated. But generally, I don't do much drinking at the table.
That is true. And it was enjoyable to have nightcaps with you. I'm not a big drinker, as you know, but as you said last night, you saw me take a drink or two. So with that said, John, we'll move over to you and get your final words on the show. You know me, I'm kind of aggravated at the tech issues, but it is what it is.
Don't worry about it. You know what? The thing of it is, if you didn't say it out loud, nobody would know. That's how good of a show you run, Jeff. It's like it's literally it's smooth as ice. Nobody would know it if you didn't say it out loud. So,
well, you know, one of the things in broadcasting, you're supposed to not admit your mistakes, or if you mispronounce a word, you're not supposed to go back and correct yourself. And I know those things, but you know, John, we strive so hard to bring this. You got CGTV to the 1,000 subscriber mark. That was a milestone. You've got the membership set up. I wanted you to talk a little bit. I mean, your response to memberships, I thought, was going to be content. That's what you get, content and good live content.
They get nothing. Look at me. No,
yeah, but
the thing is, I want
what you pay for, brother. Get what you pay for.
What was that, Ed?
What was that, Ed? Get what you pay for.
Yep. Now, I have big plans for this channel, and I think at some point it'll happen. Not today, right? And I think the fact that people appreciate what we do is cool, and I love doing this thing. It's awesome. Great show tonight. Thanks for letting me be on it. That's my always, thanks for being, I get to be with Ed, get to be with Jacob. It's fantastic, right? And all the panels we had for Alfredo and DJen and Old Bay, and Nemo. It's good to hang out with people, and you're all royalty to me. Dylan, Jacob said it before, everybody here is Craps royalty. You've been around forever, and being a part of the group feels great. It's awesome. I've gotten to play with Jacob, and he walks the walk. He says what he says he does. He's a great dude, and he's the exact same guy in person as he is here. Ed, I'm sure you are too. Someday I'm going to prove that and get to play with you and be able to sing Ed's praises. I mean, I think, I don't know, man. I just, whatever. I'm just humbled to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Nope. Anytime, John. You know that you knew that I was struggling, and you took over. I think asking part of the questions, and Dylan stepped up to the plate. It's teamwork here, guys, and that's what it's all about. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, light, dark, or in the middle, prop bets, no prop bets, whatever it is, we're all here to better the community, and we hope that we're doing that with programs such as this and the other programs that you have here on CGTV. And we haven't mentioned the International Dice Tournament. I don't know where that stands, since you and I kind of flunked out last week. John, do you know where they are with that tournament?
I think we're just about done with the elimination round. We're if not done, we're done tonight. I think Brian and his wife went tonight, or Chef Dice and his wife went tonight.
Chef Dice, yeah.
And we're down to 16, as far as I know, starting tomorrow. So we'll start doing the next round of it. Is going to be tough because it's going to be more head-to-head. It's not just your best roll out of two. It's me versus you, and the best roll plus points. And they're going to assign points to roll. So it's going to get a lot tougher now. I didn't make it through, so I get to be a host now. I get to watch. So
you and I crapped out on the same day, same show, same time, same station.
I think it was literally 10 seconds apart. We both failed out. Yeah, that's okay.
But you did beat me. You had one roll longer than I did, so you get to have that. Yeah. Dylan, I'm going to head up to you. We had another question come in, but it's probably going to have to wait till another time. Dylan, let's go ahead and we'll get the show out of here almost on a 3-hour time limit, so we'll beat Duracell's over-under on the 3-hour show.
Well, I just want to, again, say thanks to everybody that makes this possible, and which is you. I mean, everyone makes it possible. I'm just a small little fish in a small little pond, and still learning. And that's what this is all about: is us bouncing stuff off of each other, learning stuff, and growing. And that's what we're all about. And no one's better than anybody else, and we all work together. So it's a great community spirit that we have, and that's what I love about this family that we have. So I want to again say thank you to everyone for making this fourth episode so fantastic, and can hardly wait for our next one. So when is our next one?
That's what I thought you were going to talk about, and I knew that was going to kick it over to me. I just did put up there, guys, that tonight I officially joined the membership here at CGTV. Not only am I a host so graciously with everybody else that's here, hopefully that will continue, but I actually did contribute my new membership fees, the $4.99 a month, because I believe in what we're doing here. I believe in the community, and I believe in everybody, regardless of what side that you are on. So the next show, well, it's ironic that you ask that, Skill, because it's typically a question you ask. We're not going to be here in 2 weeks. We're going to be here in 3 weeks, guys. It's going to be March 26th. The reason why, next week we're, is that a bad week, John? Next week we're off, and then the week after that, I'll be in Vegas, and I won't be here on that Sunday. It's a travel day for me. No, I go on Saturday. I'll be in Vegas with the Blue Wrench crew with Big AZ from the 18th through the 24th. So we'll be back on the 26th. So that's the next week. Not 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then we'll come back in April. And because of Easter, we may only have one show in April, but it's hard to believe that Season 2, Episode 4 is just about ready to close down for the day. And I appreciate everybody. Ed, thank you for coming on, as always. You're a pleasure to talk with. And I have a message from you when we get off. If it's not too late, I'll send it to you. If not, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Guys, any final closing words? I'll hit the cue. We're going to get out of here.
Dicegen's
Good night, everybody. Enjoyed it.
Dicegen is running a strategy tournament.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring attention to that.
Yep, the March Madness tournament. Yes, he is running that. Yes, he did. Yep. Speaking of Dice Degen, he said brown water hydration is my name for Ed. Ed, thank you. John, thank you. We'll see you on Coffee and Craps. I see you've put your shows up for both the Daily Paycheck and the Coffee and Craps. That's here on CGTV. On the East Coast, it's 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. On the West Coast, it's 7 and 8 a.m. Guys, hope you enjoy it. Everybody that was here, I don't know that we hit the peak views that we normally do, but we were in the high 80s. John, correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I saw.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
But 3 weeks from now, guys, we'll be back here on CGTV. It will be 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the 26th. Till then, guys, everybody here, stay here. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, be safe, and play smart.